Hola, amigos, and how do you do? My name's host Derek. Welcome to you to Talking with Famous People. It's the internet television program that never disappoints, always delights and amazes, and is a non-stop, riotous celebration of joy, truth, and goodness. I don't think I'm overselling it to call it that. A non-stop and riotous celebration of all that is true, good, and just. That's the most accurate description I can think of for talking with famous people. I guess I might say, could go with impossibly good. That'd be another way you could define it, I suppose. If you wanted to be crazy. I'm crazy for being so correct. You might say that. I'm crazy for squeezing your ass. Why did I do that? That was really dumb. Especially since you're my grandmother. There's no reason to squeeze my own grandmother's ass. I know that you'll love me as long as you want to. Then someday you'll leave me for somebody new. Worry. Why do I let myself worry? Because I've been possessed by a Damon. Yes, that's right. I realized it. I was about to go to bed when all of a sudden I was like, hold on a second. Who am I? Am I Eric or am I Damon? I was confused. I'm Damon. Then it struck me. It's just as Jack Torrance keeps warning us all. I was playing around with tarot cards, and sure enough, now I've been possessed by a Damon. I think it might be Matt Damon, but it could be Damon Wayans. Could be Damon Gray. Regardless, I'm pretty sure I have in fact been possessed by a Damon, and I'm doing my best to get rid of it. I'm using all your normal anti-Damon measures. I'm watching Ben Affleck movies. It tends to, excite the Damon one way or another, either repelling them or making them more agitated in some fashion so that, you can grab hold of them and pull them out and throw them away. Because nobody wants to be possessed by a Damon. Oh, sure. You might point to people who are Damons already without possession. Well, they're a unique class of individual when it comes to Damon possession. Being already Damons without the possession, they render the concept moot for themselves. The question is moot. Why am I live streaming, you might well ask? And I would have to agree that would be a sensible thing to ask. The answer is, I don't know. It's probably because Damon wanted to live stream. The Damon who possessed me. No, I'm just concerned that maybe Matt Damon is the Damon that possessed me, but I haven't been able to nail it down yet. But right now, I'm not acting like myself. And I keep mistaking my name for Damon. I keep calling myself Damon in my own head. And, I think basically Jack Torrance was right. He was warning me over and over again, if you keep playing around with those tarot cards, Eric, you're going to be possessed by a Damon. So I think I have been possessed by a demon. That must explain why I want to live stream right now, because I was going to go to bed, but Damon, who possessed me, wanted to stay up and live stream. But it might not be Matt. It might not be Matt Damon. It might be Damon Wayans. It might be Damon Gray. It might be somebody else named Damon that I don't know. I'm not sure. Or it could be somebody who goes by the name of Duh Man, and I'm merely mispronouncing it. So, it's a complicated question. And I guess Damon brought me here today, in possession of my will and spirit, to live stream, to teach me a valuable lesson about the dangers of looking at tarot cards. The Damon became a central part of his thinking about vocation, motivation, creativity, and the individual's potential for achieving fulfillment in life. Jungian analysis in the grip of. Well, I thought it very. That's not a very operationalized definition now, is it? Well, I'm not talking about that kind of Damon. That'd be more of the demon variety you're talking about. I'm talking about a Damon. Somebody named Damon. Probably still alive, since I'm assuming dead people don't have the power to possess others. Obviously, in order to exercise the power, it's generally considered a precondition that you be alive. See, this is where Jung pisses me off. It is superior to our ordinary consciousness and can possess us without our conscious awareness. Its expression cannot be consciously willed, and the more our conscious is split off from the unconscious, the larger and more powerful the demon. In what way is it superior? Why does that make it superior? Like, I get that he I get a lot of the concepts Ian's referencing here and talking about, and the way that Rachel right now is somewhat in the grip of an unconscious function, insofar as her situation is requiring her. As she and I lay in bed yesterday and exchanged concern for the other person. Her concern that she voiced is, I just want to make sure that my reality isn't making you sad. And it struck me, and I was struck by the fact that I was struck by it, and I said the wise thing to say at that moment, which was, Rachel, we should be sad. We should both be sad. And that was true, but almost meaningless to us, because F is not a conscious function for us. I default to SIing when I'm feeling sad. I get into bed and stuff. And of course, what she's being compelled to do in this ongoing medical situation is a lot of SI stuff, right? Like, she's sleeping a lot. She's trying to take good care of herself. In other words, her unconscious, very unconscious 8th slot SI is doing what it's supposed to do. In that regard, it's superior or something. Hi, Bogdan. Reykjavik. Is your name pronounced the same as that place they had the Olympics at one time? Anyhow, it would be as though circumstances compelled me to SE the shit out of everything for a month straight. I'd be exhausted and not quite sure why, and like just frustrated, right? But it's a lot better than being dragged into a situation where you have to use your FI all the time. The thing is, I mean, what I mean by that is not FI, TE. For her, it would be TE. It's a lot better for her than if she were dragged into a situation where she has to use her TE all the time. So in other words, you're least comfortable when you have to use your polar all the time. You're actually rather unaware of when you're using your 8th slot function. And the thing about that is it still wears on you, you know? So it's like what I need to do when I'm feeling down or in any sort of distressed state is SI. What Rachel really needs to do when she's in a distressed state is SE. But this particular distressed state is keeping her in SI. And so she's feeling probably as though she's not really had a good she's not really had a good experience with this, No, I've been possessed by somebody named Damon. I'm not sure which Damon it is. My initial thought was Matt Damon, but then I thought maybe Damon Wayans, or just some regular guy named Damon that I don't know. Are you named Damon by any chance, Carmen's Pimp? Maybe it's you. The thing is, I just wanted to get on here to admit, it's true what Jack Torrance was saying. After all, he's been warning me that if I keep looking at those tarot cards, I'm going to become possessed by a Damon. And sure enough, it's happened. Now here I am having Damon-like inclinations. You know how Damons are, right? They really like to eat yogurt a lot. I've got this sudden craving for yogurt. You know how Damons have a tendency to work on oil platforms? I want to go get a job on an oil platform now. It's obviously I'm possessed by a Damon. Possibly Matt Damon, yeah. I do have this strange desire to go to Boston, and I'm not really sure why. So that lands in the evidence pile in favor of it being Matt Damon. Whichever Damon is possessing me, they're not letting me ask them any questions directly. They're just suddenly making me do Damon-y things. You know how Damons always like to go, yiggity yah? Well, I have the urge to do that. Those are the only two famous Damons in history, as far as I can tell, are Damon Wayans and Matt Damon. I can't really think of any others. Hi. Are you 2-2? Are you 4? Or are you I? Or are those all L's? Impossible to say. Maybe your name's Alien 60s here. Finally. He might know how to get rid of a Damon possession. Is it true that if you get Ben Affleck to pee on you, that exercises the Damon? It's IL. Il. Are you intuitive, logical? Sounds like you're pretty intuitive and logical. That's my thing. But we had a nice dinner with my dad tonight. I barbecued. And my dad made the side dishes. And we talked about movies, actually, which is not the sort of thing that we normally talk about at dinner. Well, you know what? Your terrible play is sounding like an interesting idea to me, Mr. Oliver Lina Benna. Because now what I'm thinking is the protagonist of the play should alternately be possessed by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. Like it shifts every 6 hours or something. So, of course, the problem is every time you shift back to Matt Damon, you're drunk. You spend your time as Matt Damon trying to sober up, and then you turn back to Ben Affleck, you turn back to Matt Damon again, you're drunk again. And your friend can be periodically possessed by Nicolas Cage to help out both Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. And you could have 1 hour of you time a day. Okay, so you get, 11 and a half hours of Matt Damon, 11 and a half hours of Ben Affleck, and 1 hour of you. Your friend, in contrast, gets only 1 hour of Nicolas Cage and 23 hours of himself. So you got to use your Nicolas Cage wisely. And the goal in the movie is for Nicolas Cage, Matt Damon, you and your friend to get Ben Affleck to quit drinking. To quit drinking and whoring around. The basic plot of it is that that you, your friend, Matt Damon, and Nicolas Cage are all brainstorming together, but we have to work out exactly how the switch occurs. But every time you're about to get a handle on shit, you switch to Ben Affleck, and you're like, well, okay, I'm off to the bar, and then when you switch back to Matt Damon, you're in the middle of doing rails. You're drunk. You've got a horse on the bed, and then of course we have to call in Nicolas Cage and he comes in. He steals the Declaration of Independence and uses that to get Ben Affleck out of jail by trading it for him to the police. In the end, Ben Affleck wins, and Nicolas Cage, Matt Damon, you and your friend are all just getting drunk and whoring. The end. The end of that movie. I like it. I like that movie a lot. I want to go see it right now. Everyone should go vegan? Well, that statement certainly is a lie. I mean, not only is it a lie, but it's a statement almost designed, almost intended to provoke me to say, well, that's a very dumb thing to say. I mean, what do you mean by should? Are you saying prescriptively that you know what's best for other people's dietary needs? Or are you saying there's some sort of universal moral obligation or even positive moral indication to go vegan? So, ILIL, you're probably not L, right? L people don't say those things. It's just better to be yourself than to try to be some version of what you think the other person wants. Matt Damon. It wasn't so much a joke as it was a provocation. It was let's see what happens if I throw this rock in the water. Animals should control things. Which things would you like them to control? Animals do control things. There aren't things that we particularly pay attention to. Oh yeah? Well, you know what, ILIL? I am vegan. I'm hardcore vegan. So the joke's on you. I don't even eat anything that's even been near an animal. If I know a vegetable has been near an animal, I won't eat it. I only eat fallen fruit. Okay? I don't even eat plants. I'm killing even plants. I eat dirt, twigs, and fallen fruit, and that's it. Pebbles sometimes. And you should too. So, now the joke's on you, mister. You walked into a vegan bear trap without even knowing it. Picasso said, art is a lie that tells the truth. What if you just want to tell the truth and not lie about it? Nicolas Cage. That's a good quote. I agree. Art is not a lie that tells the truth. That's stupid. Hi, Lich. How am I doing this evening? I am doing medium well. How are you doing this evening? I've got my favorite hat. Winston's mom gave me this hat, and as I indicated the other day in the stream, it jumped right to the front of my favorite hat line. So I've got a lot of hats, but you'll notice you'll rarely catch me wearing any hat other than this one. Why? Because this is my favorite hat. It looks kind of blackish almost sometimes on the screen, but now you can see it's blue. It's blue dotty dee da doo doo da dee da dee da dee da doo da dee da dee da. How much would you have to pay to send you an art? I like little snail mail things like that. I'll draw you a picture and mail you something. If you give me your mailing address, you don't have to pay me anything for that. It's not like my pictures are any good. It's not like I'm a good artist, you know. Am I an ENTP? Yeah. Anybody who tells you that money is the root of all evil doesn't have any. That's a pretty good quote. I like the Frank Zappa quote Winston's mom put up earlier. The reason communism doesn't work is people like to own things. Got a new poll question up for those of you who like answering polls. It asks, which sentence is most true for you? Is it feelings get stuck in my body, food gets stuck in my body, or needles get stuck in my body? Because, I was thinking the other day on the toilet, poo is just food that gets stuck in your body. Just like tears are just feelings that get stuck in your body. And just like songs get stuck in your head. Sometimes snot gets stuck in my nose and I have to blow my nose. Um, hairs get stuck in my skin. In fact, they come out that way. Well, maybe you're getting lab work done. You know, they're taking your blood out to test it or something. Eric, do you think INPs make naturally bad teachers? No. They're not very, I mean, they're much more quality than quantity regarding. Oh, cool. Thanks, Mr. Mom. I'm looking forward to seeing that. That's interesting. I hired a couple of INTPs, which coach debate for me. They do quality, not quantity. So I'm likely to throw at the kids more cards than they need, which is not necessarily a good thing, but not necessarily a bad thing. INTPs, coaches expect kids to cut their own cards too much. But once they get the idea that that's not going to work, then they'll cut a finite amount of cards, and it's like just enough to support their app and some basic neg shit. They're kind of lazy, you know, but they're smart. Are INFPs real? Well, yeah, they exist. Why would you think they were? Why would you think they were fake? I wonder. Any tips on how to improve TE? Make fun of it on the internet? I don't know. My TE's, eh. Like, I've always got examples, recent example that I was thinking about, but I'll see if I can remember it. Well, it's like when I was doing the barbecuing, there's all these sort of things like, okay, first I go get the, well, I mean, it didn't happen exactly this way today because I had prepped out but yeah, it was still happened this way. So first I go get the stuff from the garage that's like the fire stuff, like the charcoal and the kindling that I use. The bottle of charcoal lighter fluids over there. So I typically do lots of stupid stuff like go in there, get the kindling, bring it out, put the kindling in, go put the kindling back, get the charcoal, bring it out. I do shit like that. Not exactly that thing, but stuff like that. And so today, when I was dealing with the barbecuing stuff, I required me to do some. Well, it didn't require me, but I naturally did a fair amount of TEing, as in per like. No, don't just get the ketchup and mustard out of the fridge and take it to the table, because if you do that right now, you're just going to come back right after that and go get these two beers from the same fridge and take it and put those on the table. So why don't you just take them all at once, Eric? Like that kind of shit happens to me a lot. That kind of stuff goes through my head a lot, you know? And so how do you improve it? Well, the answer is it doesn't mean you improve or don't improve. It's conceivable if it's in a certain kind of slot that you might note yourself spending more or less time attending to those concerns. So a better example, though, that I was thinking about how I do something in a dumb way. Oh, right. Okay, like in this app, I've got scenes. Let's set up scenes. And in the scene I'm currently in, I've just been continuing to use that same scene. It's got the video capture device set up with the filter already set up. It's got the background already set up, whatever, right? But every time I use it to do something else, I have to do a new window capture. So now, if I look at the sources here, I've got 3 active sources, which are window capture 14, video capture device, and image 3. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 inactive sources. So those are sources I'm never going to use again, but I haven't removed them from the scene. So the other day, what I caught myself doing to clean up a little bit was go through and remove the sources I don't like. By first you go to it that I don't want there. There's just clutter. Go to it, right click it, go remove. Oops, I pushed rename. Right click it, go remove, and then click yes, I want to remove it. Yeah. Then go to the next one. Yeah, right? Well, if there's enough things like that have to be done individually, it's better and easier to delete the entire scene and start over with a fresh scene from scratch, putting the background picture up again and putting the filter on the video capture device again. And so it's like shit like that. When I catch myself doing something the super long and hard way, unnecessarily, I get a little frustrated, but I recognize it's just kind of part of my way. Like, for example, if I'm moving notes around in a song, like just little bits to make everything time perfectly, and I've got 4 instances of these 8 bars, this 8-bar loop in the song, I need to make sure I move all of the things in one of that and then immediately replace the other ones. Otherwise, I will end up moving it independently in each of those things, and I often do, rather than copying and pasting the 8 bars that I've successfully fixed. I end up forgetting which one it is and then just like doing it the long dumb way, right? So these things are TE matters that I note in myself. Things like there's a particular effect that I used to use a lot. Okay, a particular compressor that I use in certain circumstances. And my keyboard command for it is Control-Shift-4. But because my 4 is sticky on my keyboard now, I've done the following thing. When I want to use that compressor, instead of going to the effects thing and scrolling down and finding it and clicking it like that, or instead of going to the preferences and changing the keyboard command, which is what I should do, I just use the other compressor. Because this has been going on for a while now, right? TE is about the idea of doing the work now that enables you to be efficient with your work later. In other words, you'll trade having to do a lot of pre-work to enable your actual work to be maximally efficient, which is the smart way to do things. The dumb way to do things is the way I like to do things, which is, well, I'll just start using it and figure it out as I go. I just want to start playing with it. I don't want to do setup, you know? Check the guy's 4-neck guitar soloing. That seems silly. The amount of muscle mass one can acquire is asymptotical. Cognitive functions is like that. Yeah, I don't understand why you need to have 4 necks on your guitar. What does that allow you to do exactly? Shift to different registers? Like, do you have that many registers on a guitar? Is it a bass, a guitar, and a ukulele all at the same time? Extreme ambidextrousness. Extreme ambidextrousness means you always use both hands to do everything, no matter what it is. So I'm feeling pretty chill right now. Like, I was feeling pretty gacked out the last couple of days. And that also makes me feel kind of emotionally distant from Rachel, because I tend to get lost in what I'm doing and not paying attention to her really, you know. The thing is, she doesn't really have a lot of expectations that I give a lot of direct attention to her or something. She's generally comfortable either chilling with me with what I'm doing or doing her own thing, chilling. But you know, we both need emotional connectivity with each other. And so, like yesterday when we were lying in bed and we had that conversation about feeling sad and such, you know, it struck me, I guess, just how challenging being an INFJ is. I'm down to 4 strings on my guitar. Does that count for anything? I could put new strings on it. Probably should. If my mom's face and your mom's face were to consult about the matter, I'm sure they'd agree. I should put new strings on the guitar. President Ulysses S. Grant was ambidextrous and he could write in Latin with his left hand and Greek with his right hand. He's also a huge drunk, you know. He's like constantly drunk. Maybe he could make my short-lived video series History's Greatest Loadies. We could put Winston Churchill on that list too. I'm not so much interested in MBTI as I'm interested in human beings. I was as surprised as anybody that it turned out that cognitive functions better explains human beings than anything else in psychology, and that people hadn't gotten it right yet. So I guess it's that unique confluence of things that, number one, cognitive functions is actually the metaframe, so to speak. Number two, that it was an area where I could do ideational intellectual work where the basic concept was correct, but people hadn't figured it out really yet, so I could do new work and meaningful new work in this area. And once you understand cognitive functions well, it becomes an incredibly powerful taxonomical tool, metacognitive tool, self-observation tool, lots of all other things. Because, we can't meaningfully do analysis about distinctions that we don't have language for. And language is how we make distinctions. So a lexicographical tool like a cognitive function thing, even if you just think of it as a taxonomy, it's incredibly meaningful. Like when my student Jeffrey asked me the other day, can you talk to me about basically how to write a thesis? Or, he often brings his writings to me to look at, and I say, and he's like, well, what? I'm like, you clearly tried to write this without a real thesis again. He's like, well, I don't understand how you can always convert my theses into so much better theses, which he acknowledges I can. I said, well, let's look at this. And this will also answer the question, why is it the metaframe? I'll bring up a document here. It's called Things I Did to Your Mom's Face Last Night. It's 172 pages long. I did a lot of shit to your mom's face last night. Okay, so I guess I'll share this. Like so. So here's a link to this document we're going to be looking at. And I'll put it up on the screen as well. But the part that I'm going to be talking about specifically is starting on page 4, where it says arguments and the frameworks they imply or represent. So the reason it's the metaframe is because it explains why I say it's the metaframe. It explains why you're asking why I think it's the metaframe. And it explains why you either will or won't be satisfied by my answer. That's what makes it the metaframe, okay? But when we look at this thing here, you'll see that how we can use it in a functional sense to parse anything or everything, basically. So let's take a look. I use this document to teach this student how to write a thesis, which is to say, what's going to be happening in anything you're reading is it's a presentation of the author's frame bias. And what you want to do in your analysis is determine what frame they're representing, although they don't really know it explicitly themselves. And you need to determine what frame they're opposing, and then do the analysis accordingly, or write the thesis accordingly. So let's read what it says together for a moment. You and I together, making each day come true. Okay, implicit frames. An argument in a debate round, like any argument, carries with it the frame that can be inferred from the argument. For example, if I say we should exercise to keep our hearts healthy, one implicit frame, a set of facts that the statement presupposes is not in any dispute, is that maintaining heart health is good. The above statement uses numbers 3 and 6 as its implicit frame. Harm prevention, absolute relativism. Preventing harm is good. Once that's established that harm is prevented, the value is not questioned. That there are reasons linked to studies or data, and that such information is more reliable than personal experience in determining matters of one's own body is another implicit frame. We can break down every argument, every kind of purposeful communication, as an example of one or more of these implicit frames or values and the competition between them. And how many are there? 8. Why? Because there are 8 cognitive functions. The first is singularity. This links to NI, preferability over alternatives. The second is originality, high ceiling, potential for greater impacts than known approaches. That's NE. The third is harm prevention or remediation. This is FI thing, which is, but this bad thing could happen. It also relates actions to outcomes to intentions. Representationalism, which is the extent to which things mirror the general mores and standards of a given population of arguers, which is FE. Relative absolutism. This attains absolute status under certain conditions. Absolute relativism. We look to empirics for a more efficient course against outcomes in the status quo. Reliability. We know it's worked many times before and anticipates similar outcomes going forward. SI. And execution. We need to shake things up a bit or make the status quo uncomfortable by adding unpredictability. So that's SE. Absolute relativism is TE. Relative absolutism is TI. So the explanation here is as follows. Explicit frames, like we have an actual debate, show the implicit value of relative absolutism, which is to say, the fact that I'm saying it's good to have explicit frames is predicated on its own implicit value, which is, namely, that TI is good. We set the status of something Z as status X for the purposes of debate Y, and thus needn't ever consider within the event of the debate whether something Z might actually have statuses not X and G. This is so because such violates the implicit frame in which the discourse occurs, that of relative absolutism, in which a given claim carries with it the burdens of its meanings and the implications thereof. So relative absolutism, again, is TI. That is to say, you have things that are absolutely so, but relative, or I really should call it conditional absolutism, But when I wrote this, I didn't call it that. The notion that a given course ought to be pursued because now is the tipping point, or because Y is key to X, are arguments that presume or operate under an implicit frame of singularity, which is the NI frame of reference. The best linked story is the correct one, and conflicting linked stories are wrong. In reality, most impacts in complex systems can't be causally reduced like that. Representationalism is the notion that inclusion and equality are implicit goods, and thus runs afoul of other implicit frames frequently. It views claims not as matters to be legitimized by absolute relativism, but rather through linkage to empirics. The empirics themselves are attained within the implicit frame, however, and therefore don't link meaningfully to the claim, for others operating under different implicit frames. In other words, there's something circular about proving what you want to be the case by pointing to evidence that supports it empirically, in a way that reasoning is not circular. Because reasoning accounts for the frame and makes it explicit. Originality manifests the implicit frame of preferring alternatives to that which has been done before. It makes arguments of inherency and underestimates the risks of untried approaches to things. Arguments of inherency being that you have to establish a lot of stuff before we do something. Arguments that display this implicit frame are rare in actual debate, but include we ought not limit carbon emissions because solvency will arrive in some manner we don't anticipate. Carbon caps comprise a very poor workaround kind of solution because of the harms implicit. We ought to wait until we have a better solution. Reliability, SI, overweighs potential harms from untried solutions. It favors that which is known to correlate over that which may potentially correlate with greater strength, but which will produce ancillary and unintended outcomes. So, for more explanation on TE and TI as frames of reference, TI, relative absolutism, is the frame that I'm operating under most of the time, is my operational value, my tool function. Under this frame, words are absolute in their expression but relative in their meaning. So whenever someone says something, those words have precise meanings in that context. They are unchanging meanings, just as the weight of a 1-pound brick is unchanging. However, in another context, one might define the word differently and thus offer that this time the brick is 2 pounds. Once agreed upon, that's what it is for the duration of that exchange. The reality of the brick is just a status that's absolute within that frame reality, which itself is a brick to be defined for the purposes of making arguments about the relationships between bricks and reality. So, in other words, the status of something is absolute, but it can only within the context of a constrained event called an argument or something, right? Absolute relativism, the meaning of something is absolute to the particular parties and is distinct from the definitional constraints of relative absolutism. Thus, people will often say things like, well, I know I said it that way, but I mean something else. Or, you just don't get what I mean. I'm just not expressing it well. This presumes that there is meaning outside of the precise definition of the word. Relative absolutism says, or TI says, if you mean anything at all, you present that meaning in static words so that others can glean the information you convey, scrutinize it, and determine statuses against other such words. TE, absolute relativism, says, no, words are how I attempt to express meaning that authentically exists beyond words. It doesn't matter how relatively absolute your conclusion is because it's not absolutely relative to me or other people. So the thing is, in any set of arguments then, it turns out you can't think of any arguments that don't fall under one of these, that don't represent one of these implicit frames. One of these frames. Whether the frame is made explicit or not is a separate question, but that's one of the reasons why it's the meta frame. Because, in fact, it does successfully turn out, oh shit, in fact, all arguments are predicated on one of these kinds of values, expressed values. And that's pretty surprising stuff, Pretty impressively, it's pretty shocking, really. It's absolutely shocking to discover that there is a metaframe. Cognitive functions occupies a lot of headspace if you understand the concept well enough, Oliver Lanhan says. That's true, but it's also true that cognitive functions, the understanding of cognitive functions and the affording it of headspace seems to clear more headspace land as well. Because it's like one reality we all have to accept is that we don't know what we don't know inherently, right? And we never know how limited we are except once we're no longer limited in that fashion. This links to something Winston's mom noted the other day, this concept of need to know. When somebody says, like, okay, well, this is on a need-to-know basis, the thing is, the same thing as saying, this is on a basis of me deciding whether I want you to know. Because if it were really a question of a question, like, does this person need to know, then that question couldn't be meaningfully answered except by consulting the other person. Because their position on whether they need to know is certainly relevant to the question. Of course, you can't get their position on whether they need to know without informing them of the thing that you're asking about whether they need to know. So, Miguel Hidez, I appreciate the request. I probably am not going to play it anytime in the immediate future. I'm not planning on picking up the guitar right now, but when I do, or if I do, I can look at it, look it up. I could sing it, but I don't know what the chords look like or anything. Wait, A Day in the Life, that one is the one that goes, woke up, fell out of bed, dragged a comb across my head. Made my way downstairs. Is that one? I can't play that thing, no. That's got too much weird shit going on. Hey, Jack Torrance is here. I just wanted to give you your due correctness here. You were right. I was looking at those tarot cards and I got possessed by a Damon. And we're leaning towards it's probably Matt Damon. I was poo-pooing the idea, but turns out you were right. People named Damon will possess you if you look at tarot cards. I'm making more coffee if you're wondering. If you're saying to yourself, where did Eric go? Oh no, he's gone. Maybe a Sasquatch carried him away. Well, fear not, friends. A Sasquatch did not carry me away. I just went to make more coffee. Now I'm going to make urine. I'm going to use my penis and my bladder to make urine. But I'm going to do it off screen so you can't see it. Maybe that's how I can get my Damon exercise, Jack Torrance. Maybe I need to go on the Jimmy Kimmel Show. Can you book me a slot on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, please, Jack Torrance? Real quick. Just call him up and tell him Eric wants to be on the show. I'm sure he'll be down with that. Ah, sweet, sweet, sweet relief of urine. Oh yeah. Oh. They call me a slow it on slow pee. I'm in slow pee mode right now. How fast my pee comes out, well, it really depends. It varies a lot. Oh. Well, I tell you, the emptying of bladder liquids is a gratifying experience. It's the kind of SI that really gets my FI going. Makes me go, wow, I really like not having to pee. No, it's not all thick and syrupy. It's regular urine viscosity. Don't tell lies about the viscosity of my pee. You know how offended I get by that, Karma's Pimp. I'm very protective regarding the viscosity of my bodily fluids. It's one of my central concerns in life. Don't misrepresent the viscosity of my fluids. That's what it's going to say on my tombstone. But you know what? You were probably just thinking about my tears. Because it is true that my tears are as thick as maple syrup. Those are two very dumb stoners. I don't have my mom's collection of old stuff. Eric, do you think the universe has some sort of weird, unexpected nature, like being a simulation or the dream of a giant, godly, horrific, incomprehensible INTP beast? Well, simulation is certainly... the simulation notion has good arguments. There's a lot of good arguments in favor of that notion. But the problem with it is, it doesn't answer any questions. It just shifts the questions a level, right? It's like, okay, well, I still have those same questions about the so-called base reality that I have about this simulated reality. So simulation doesn't answer any questions meaningfully. And the thing is, one has to wonder if there are meaningful answers to those kinds of questions. Like, it's hard to conceive of a context in which, I mean, well, see, that's the advantage. Look, each of these notions offers the following conceit. It presents an imagined moment where you are outside of the box and you get to find out what the truth is. So in like Christianity, that conceit is manifest as after death you get to see what things are really like from behind the scenes, right? In simulation theory, depending on how it's interpreted, the way I think, it's like if I wanted it to be the way I want it to be, then what would happen is at the end of this life, I'd wake up and I'd realize that I was like 16 years old, and that the way that human beings had found to extend their lives is they found a way to put a person every day into a new simulated life that takes a day in their biological time, but is experienced as a lifetime in the simulation. And in that way, people still only lived 100 years, but they had 1,000,000 lifetimes or whatever, maybe not that many, but a lot of lifetimes that they had lived in that time period. So, ow. Ah, I burnt my leg last night accidentally. When I put the torch here after I used it to light the thing, and it fell and the hot metal burned me. So, multiverse theory doesn't work for me because people are misunderstanding the concept. I mean, it's not really a movie, and I didn't even make a movie out of. It's just a nice kind of idyllic vision of a future in which there's a clever workaround to the notion of mortality. So it may be the case that science could extend the human biological life by 100 years, or it is the case that something like I just described could happen, which would be a more meaningful way of extending lifespan. Well, the simulation one would be a more meaningful way of extending lifespan. You'd have more lived life than if you just added 100 years of actual biological time. But that conceit there is that it's the same you, right? So it's like I was saying to Rachel in bed last night, I guess. If you remember your past lives, isn't it really just one life? It's still you remembering it, right? Another way to put it is, how do you know that they're your past lives? Maybe you're their future life, right? Some scientists argue that DMT is released during trauma and it slows down the way we experience time. It definitely does that. So having your life flash in front of your eyes while you're dying, you're actually living it again. I don't know what Omegle is even. The thing is, in this scenario that I'm presenting, of course, the Eric who's 16 years old in the simulation booth on some planet somewhere right now, when he gets out of the simulation booth, he's able to remember this whole life that Eric led here, right? But when he's leading any of these lives, he's not able to remember the 16-year-old Eric in the booth over there, right? So the issue here is by constructing it like that, you make that Eric the base Eric. But if in fact I remembered that Eric during this life, then it would be much more ontologically challenging to determine what the real Eric was. The one who goes in the simulation booth is only more real than any of the other Erics, insofar as he has a biological body that exists outside the simulated ecosystem. But I have a biological body for all intents and purposes, regardless. In other words, his experience of a biological body isn't any different than mine. So why would he be a more real Eric than me? The only way to make him a more real Eric is to make sure that he remembers the lives that he leads in the booth, but while leading those lives doesn't remember that he got into the booth. Some intuitives say that people are connected by umbilical cord to their earthly body while having an out-of-body experience. Why do you say some intuitives? I mean, people who say that, are they more likely to be intuitives? I have not been listening to Rod Stewart's Forever Young again. No. Your soul chain is strongly attached to its astral body because floating souls is a nightmare. Oh, shamans and such. Okay, cool. That's fine. I just wondered why you said it. People would just get addicted to living through their simulated avatar's life and would disregard their true reality. Well, in this imagined future world where people live a normal lifespan, but every day they go to work by going to one of these booths and living a simulated lifetime, presumably such a society, such a world would have automated all wealth acquisition and retention for each individual, which is conceivable to do, like especially given cryptocurrency and stuff, and with AI getting better, one could conceive of a world in which the individual delegates some decision-making power to this AI. In other words, the decision to constrain the individual's choices on occasion, and gives it the authority to do all the things it needs to do to accumulate and retain wealth, such that the production of useful work by automated forces is sufficient to generate wealth to support all the people without them doing any useful labor themselves. And in the absence of any useful labor to do, they'd almost be required ontologically to remove themselves from that reality by entering a simulated reality in which they are required to do something useful. Because life would be meaningless, you know? I mean, to a certain extent, learning artificial intelligence already exists. The thing is, what's never going to happen, as far as what I believe is never going to happen, is sentient artificial intelligence that doesn't mimic the biological processes by which intelligence manifests. Namely, being born, having experiences, and living in a biological body with specific sensory inputs that in part define the scope of our potential attentional approaches. So for me, what do I think the most probable true nature of reality is? If I had to say something? I think that each person is a reality in a shared physical world comprising something akin to the way that everybody renders reality independently on their own computer when playing an MMORPG, whatever that is. When playing one of those things, everybody renders the reality of the game independently on their own computer, right? There's not some central computer rendering the game for everybody and then broadcasting it to their computer. I have no idea. I don't hate Peterson at all. I haven't really watched any of his videos. I have no idea what he said to Zizek. I'm just saying, I just saw the title of a video on the side of recommended things. It was an hour-plus long lecture on communism versus capitalism, and I thought, I can do it faster than that. You know? I can do it faster and cleaner than that and apolitically. There can't be correlations between sentient artificial intelligence and anything because there aren't any examples of sentient artificial intelligence. So it's like, you've got to have a set of instances of thing one, a set of instances of thing two to see if there's a correlation between the two of them. You make me cover up my face with my hands, Jack. Now look what you've done. You've made me cover my face with my hand. How do you feel about yourself? In fiction, okay. Well, what the fuck does that mean? You know, a lot of times in fiction, time travel causes people to have sex with their own grandmother. So that's why we shouldn't have time travel. That's what? Huh? All I know is that Jack's mom's face shouldn't time travel. I'm not saying Jordan Peterson is particularly wrong, in general. But note, he is an quote-unquote evolutionary psychologist. Now, I have absolutely... Anybody who's actually paid attention, I don't know if anybody really has, but who's paid attention to all the various videos I made on evolution, has discarded it entirely from their repertoire of things that explain anything, right? And so if you've dedicated your whole career and your career identity to being an evolutionary psychologist, you're getting almost everything wrong, almost all the time. Even though when you're not talking in your field, you might be fine. The why matters a lot. It's not okay to be right in some regard about some matter while being wrong about why. You know? Yes, I don't particularly have anything against Jordan Peterson. Because he's my lover. He's my secret lover. So I would have things against him. Doesn't make any sense. No sense at all. Okay, secret lovers. I think I figured out the problem here. Let's see if I fixed it. No. Let's see if I fixed it now, though. I think you see what I'm saying. I think you see what I'm saying. I think you see what I'm saying. I'm saying what I am saying. I think you see what I'm saying. And you agree with what I'm saying. I'd like to be what I am saying, which is I'm saying what I am saying. Yeah, let's say stuff. Yeah. I think you know what I'm saying. I'm saying all kinds of stuff. I think you know what I'm saying. I'm saying all kinds of stuff. You think I've said a lot? I haven't said enough. I think you know what I'm meaning. I mean it all so good. You think you know what you're seeming. I say it's rice and wood. You possibly make me a bowl. Fill it up with soy sauce too. I'm not immune to the think you say what I know. I think you shade what I'm playing. I think you play what I blow. Ba 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 ba. Okay, so anyway, I think you know what I'm saying. I think you know what I said. I think you know what I'm saying. You hear it inside your head. I think you know what I'm saying. And you agree so much. That's why I asked you out to lunch. Hi, Ghost Rider. Hi, Boba Fett. Jeremiah Fix. You guys are the best. Hi, Jack Torrance. Hey, Winston's mom. Karma's Pimp's here too. Let's all get along and be friends. Let's get along and be friends. James Carolus asked a question. If Peterson has Ben Shapiro on his debate tip and Zizek has Cornel West on his team, which team does Eric choose? Do you know what I mean? I don't know, but probably Ben Shapiro would be a good addition to Peterson. I don't know who Cornel West is, and if Zizek will do well with him. I don't think Zizek's a good arguer. I just think he's a dense kind of he to be. He needs to mean actual things instead of just talking out of his ass and PPO all the time. If you know what I mean. I'm asking, do you know what I mean? If you know what I mean. I'm saying, do you know what I mean? I'm meaning things from my gallbladder to spleen to my liver and my kidney, and in between I'm always meaning things. Yeah, I like to mean things when I say my words. I say words with definitions rather than just bleh. Bleh, 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 bleh. None of those words are defined. That's why, for me, they're not good enough at all. No, those words are not fine. Let's use words with definitions. Words to mean things. Let's say sentences that allow others to glean things about reality from what we said, cause we mean things with our words, not our head. We don't mean what we don't say. We always mean what we say. Sometimes we misspeak, in which case that day we didn't intend to mean what we said, but we say anyway what we say, whether we mean it or not to mean it, it means what it says a lot. We mean to say that. Or didn't mean to say that. Or didn't mean to say that. I meant to say something else. I didn't mean to say that. Eckhart Tolle didn't mean to say that. That's your toe. I didn't mean to say that. You a hoe. I didn't mean to say that. Oh no. Hey look everyone, Eckhart Tolle is here. He's a German who's kind of queer. He is very clear though about how enlightened he is and all that clout. He's got a lot of clout in the spirituality community. My name is Eckhart Tolle, and I have been on Opera, so I sell a whole lot of my books Even though they don't say anything, they just took your money. And I use it to visit Stuttgart to see Kraftwerk in concert. I've come to understand that LCD sound system will be touring Europe again soon. Und I Eckart Tolle am a huge fan. So let me tell you the truth you need to know. Listen, we are all one. There's connection between you and everyone. Now buy me tickets to Stuttgart. We're all one. And there's connection between you and everyone. Now buy me tickets to Stuttgart. We're all one. Yeah, there's a connection between you and everyone. Now buy me tickets to Stuttgart. We're all one. Empty vessel, empty heart, empty mind. Let the spirit of the universe flow through mine, and together we'll feel the connectivity of enlightenment. See, because you and me, we're all one. Whoa, 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 we're all one. If you're not enlightened, talk to Eckart. He's got the secret, it's in his book. Those books will tell you how to be enlightened. You just gotta take the same dumbness pill he took. You got to believe that and truth relieve you of enlightening physical attitudes, experiences of the body, actual particulars. Those things matter too. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, which syllable do you prefer? Do you prefer the syllable yeah or oh? Oh or yeah or oh or yeah? Which do you prefer? That's a nice question in the question and answer section of today's video. Boy, that was a very active, busy, enthusiastic young beat, wasn't it? What's this one sound like? Let's find out. It's the same one, but it's got some cymbals and stuff. It's a little bit better. It's got some cymbals, you know. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's not a good loop, though. I see what the problem is. It's your mom's face as usual. Ja, I'm from Stuttgart. Ja, I like wine. Ja, und ja, du da, du da da. Ja, du da da. I want to go to Oktoberfest. Ja. Ja. My name is the International Delight, and I am a very international person. I've been all over the world. I've been to Bonn. I've been to Stuttgart, I've been to Berlin, I've been to Vienna, I've been to Austria, everywhere in the world. But I want to tell you something today about what you need to do in order to be a problem-solving man like me, the International Delight, in accordance with my friend Pocket Title Lemon Squeeze. If you want to solve a problem, you've got to go somewhere and ask them what is wrong with you and where and why and who. Can I ask to see how to fix it? And if they tell you some answer, then you go to that place and you do that thing and you see then, hey now sir, have I fixed that problem? And if you have, you got solvency. Have I fixed that problem? If you did, you got solvency. Have I fixed that problem? If you did, you got solvency. Now perhaps you'll go and they will say, das ist verboten, go away. Das ist verboten, go away. We'll call the Polizei. And if so, then you and I should just go away because das ist verboten. Nein, we cannot do it. Good, you watched the whole thing, I'm glad. The entire event encompassed so many hours. So I'll tell you the story that Ghostwriter is referring to here. The story of the time that me and Pocket went to Singapore to solve their problem. So just the other day, Singapore called me up and they said, we got a problem inside of our cups. Our drinks are too sweet. We don't know what to do. We like to drink them, but then when you do, we get too many cavities. Not acceptable for you or me or anybody else, see? So can you help us solve our problem? International delight. Once I said, yeah, I could help you. Your drinks are too sweet. Okay, Pakatot, let's go to Singapore. Now, Pakatot lemon squeeze, of course, has half a lemon for a head. He, in fact, is not dead because he is a half a lemon head guy. That's just how he is. It's not why he's different or something. It's just who he is, and you just have to accept it. And of course, Pakatot lemon squeeze is very interested in things that make you tart and sour, and tart and sour. Sour or tart things are very important to him. So as a consequence, then when we went to the Singapore, we said, now what's the story? We've got lots of drinks and they need sugar. You got too much sugar. And they said, yeah, too much sugar. Our drinks are too much sweet. And I said, well, put less sugar in them then and you'll have a feat. Then your drinks won't be so sweet. You'll be able to drink them just fine. They won't be overly sugary and you won't have to drink some wine to make the taste of the sugar drink go away from your mouth when you want to. Instead, you'll be just fine and your problem will be solved, and me and mine and Pakatot will have a parade in time to celebrate our example of solving your problem. So, anyway, the gist of that story is that Pakatot Lemon Squeeze and the International Delight, they went to Singapore and solved their problem, which was that Singapore's drinks were too sweet, by telling them to put less sugar in their drinks. And the irony is, Pakatot Lemon Squeeze, even he realized there's no reason to add something sour. The problem's not a lack of something, it's too much of something. Too much of something is different than too little. Too much of something is not the same as too little. Too much of something is not the same as too little. Too much of something is different from too little. If I got too much, I don't have too little. And if I got too little, I don't have much. If I got too much, I don't have too little. But if I got a bunch, I don't have too much. And so I'm wondering now whether too little or too much is preferable. In the middle is appropriate, but it's not an option. You see, too little or too much are the two options provided. No third is allowed. If I try to pick a third option, I will be devoured by a monster who will chew me up and spit me out. Too much or too little? It's always the question in life. The only two choices you get. I'm feeling tired and I'm feeling tore up. I'm feeling uninspired and I'm feeling boring up. Everything I do not so good or true. Unjust, unfair, unrighteous indeed. That's the impact of speed. In part, it fades away from the peak of it. And sometimes afterwards you feel kinda like shit. Or at least without more words enough to fill the page of whatever blank slate you're approaching with your normal ways. But sometimes you say, Eric, I've had enough. I'm just sick of seeing myself in the mirror and stuff. One day I wake up and note, not this fucking guy again. Looking in the mirror, see the same old man, except it's just one man and it's me. I said, oh dear God, please, I can't spend another day being this guy. This guy is too, I don't know why he is how he is, or what he does, or why he would be. What kind of choosing mechanism must he be utilizing to be what he is, and to be all old and wrinkly and crinkly, and yet see something totally different in the mirror before him? What's wrong with this delusional old friend? I'm tired of being that guy. I'll try something else. Something less expressive, something cool on the shelf. Something more observant, something more deliberate, perhaps. But I am tired of just being all over the map. Oh yeah, not this guy again. I woke up again this morning wondering when I said, oh no, not this guy again. When I looked in the mirror. Every day it's gotta be this guy. Can't I try somebody else on once in a while? This guy is tiring. He's always talking his ear off, everybody's ear off, always doing all kind of random. Sure, he does occasional things that one might call adequate or in range or some sort of purposeful thing, but usually he just raps and sings and freestyles over beats that he made and bores everybody with his stupid ass shit, going on the internet and talking about it, and then blah 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 blah, and arguing with Jack about who knows why, and getting free hats from Winston's mom. I mean, what the hell is this guy doing? Can I please get somebody who's got some sort of a mission statement, please? Be that person for a while. I'm tired of being this gawky tall fellow, looking in the mirror and hearing myself bellow. Why am I so awful and show-offy, insufferable? And how could I tolerate being watching insufferable? No thanks, I don't want another day of that. I would like to be perhaps some lady named That. That would be a strange lady for a name, I guess. A name for a lady, I mean, I guess, but that's not the point. Tomorrow I'll wake up as a lady named That. I'll have a fancy hat, and I'll have some boobs as well. And I won't be quite so smelly, and I won't be tall and gangly, and I won't have a big old beard. I won't be all old and silly too. I'll be able to rap a lot better when I'm a woman named That. Right now I just rap like I'm some kind of old kind of rat. I'll rap a whole lot better when I'm a woman who is named That, cause then I'll have a hat. Everybody loves hats. Then the next day I want to wake up and be somebody gay. Somebody named Pierre, who is a hairdresser and has a job down there in downtown Los Angeles. And has fancy clothes and has fancy people who come get their hair cut, like superstars and supermodels and people from Hollywood and stuff. And I go to parties and drink champagne and take it up the butt and see what that's like for a day. And then the next day I'll wake up and I'll be straight again, but I'll be instead not all regular man, but instead I'll be a Canadian. And I'll have lumberjack stuff, and I'll wear some plaid, and I'll go out in the woods, and I'll kill some bears, and I'll live in a house that is made out of sticks, and I'll go downtown, and I'll make some bricks, and I'll get some maple syrup, and I'll put it on my face, and I'll go downtown, and I'll lick your face, and then we'll have flicking contest time, because we each have maple syrup on it all the time. That's how Canadians act. Oh, sure, they're nice and swell, but those aren't regular people, you know. Well, those are Canadians. Yes, those are Canadians. Oh, sure, they're nice and good, but those aren't regular people. You should know they're Canadians. Yes, they're Canadians. Don't be fooled. They might look like you and me, but those aren't regular people. No, gee, those are Canadians. Watch out for Canadians. Look out, those are Canadians. You can't tell them apart very well, but those are Canadians. They come from Canada. They have a lot of trees. They live up in the top of trees every day, up to the knees in snow all the time, drinking maple syrup, yo. They're Canadians. Happy Canadians. They love Sasquatch. They are Canadians. They named a whole province after him. Saskatchewan is named after Sasquatch, obviously, Tom. Why else would they call it Saskatchewan? They weren't named after Sasquatch, Tom. Get it together. Listen, I'm being currently possessed by Damon. You can't blame me for rapping poorly. If you want to shame him. I am possessed by Damon. Don't shame me, just shame him. I am possessed by Damon, so don't shame me, you can just shame him. remember, whatever I do, whatever I say, whatever I poop, no matter how good, no matter how bad, no matter how terrible or how mad it makes you, how sad it makes you, how glad it makes me, how blah, 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 blah. Don't blame me. Blame Damon. He's possessing me because I looked at tarot cards when Jack told me I shouldn't look at them. He was right. I was possessed by Damon then, and that's why you should never blame me. Just blame Damon. It's he fault. It's he fault. Okay? He's the Skeletor in this story. Who is the Skeletor in my story? Who is the Skeletor in your heart? Who is the Skeletor, empty and gory, needing more blood and liver and guts? Azrael is an enemy of the Smurfs. His name is Azrael, and he's an enemy of the Smurfs. Azrael. He is an enemy of the Smurfs. Azrael. Enemy of the Smurfs. If I lived in the Smurf village, they would call me Rappin' Smurf, because I'm rapping all the time, from Papa Smurf to Brainy Smurf. I rapped a Smurfette one afternoon, fucked her just that other day, and all the other Smurfs had to go away because no, only me is gonna have sex with the only chick here, see, because I'm rapping Smurf. That means I'm big pimpin' all the time. It means I'm the MC who knows how to rhyme. It means I get to pimp all the only chick here. Because obviously, Smurfette's gonna choose me over like Yawny Smurf. Yawny Smurf, you just yawn. What good is that? Duh, Dom. Not good, not cool at all. You're not gonna impress Smurfette with that doll. Yawning, come on. Brainy Smurf, quit being such a pedant, Brainy Smurf. You're not that smart, you just have glasses. Really, your ass cheeks are like 2 fat passes to Beak Town, which is a place where you get to celebrate the existence of beaks on birds. You have to pay in 100,000 words of essay written about birds just to gain admittance to the park. And if you gain admittance after dark, then you have to leave right away. So you wasted your time and your attention writing that day, and you should have saved your paper for the next morning, because then you would have been able to spend all day spawning, peering, looking at all the birds throughout the park. And what is that? I mean, it's an eagle. Oh wow, that's a beagle. That beagle is not a bird. It's an eagle's favorite kind of dog, though. That's why it's here. Anyway, what was I talking about? Saskatchewan? I was explaining something important in my rapping, I believe. Oh, right. So anyway, you can't blame me if I don't rap well, because I'm possessed by Damon, so hell, it's not my fault if I don't say things right. It's Damon's fault, so blame him. Get in a fight with him, punch him in the face, kick him in the nuts, kick him in the knee, kick him in the butt, and tell him Eric sent me to beat you up, because you shouldn't possess him. Yeah, stop possessing me, Damon. Yeah, stop possessing me, Damon. Yeah, stop possessing me, Damon. I don't want to be possessed. Stop possessing me, Damon. Stop possessing me, Damon. Stop possessing me, Damon. If you don't want arrest, I'm gonna call the possession police, who are going to arrest Damon in the street. They're gonna roll him around and handcuff him, kick him when he's on the ground, and then stomp him. That's how the cops do it when somebody possesses good men like me, who doesn't deserve that, even though look at that fat pterodactyl. I shouldn't have done so. Jack warned me, if I look at tarot cards, then horny I will get, or if not, then that. Well, possession by Damon, it's a fact. It did happen. Damon possessed me. Now he's gone. The police came and arrested him. See? That's progress. To no longer have Damon possessing me. Oh wait, but now I can't blame him if I do a bad job. Can some other Damon possess me real quick? Okay, enough with this stupid beat, Eric. Stop, it's so repetitive. God. Why don't you shut up for a second, Eric? Because I'm live streaming, I'm supposed to be making noise. Well, that's a fairly low bar you're setting yourself, Eric. You're supposed to be making noises. I mean, anybody could live stream if that was all that was required, to make noises. Well, that is all that's required. I'm making noises. Any bragging. Is that what that was? I don't know. It wasn't a particularly good rap in general. The thing about those freestyles is they're always doomed to oh, thanks, Demon. I appreciate that. Hey, good news, everybody. That's the demon that was in me a little while ago, I think. Except his name was Damon at the time. So, are you a demon named Damon? Damon is a good name for a demon. The problem with the freestyles is I like to do them. Sometimes I like to listen to them afterwards, and I like to feel impressed by my own. Like, wow, how did I do that? Because, but the thing about it is, it's very distinct from doing something for any other purpose. So, like last night after I got off after I stopped live streaming, I think Rachel went to bed. I put on, I think it was that beat, and started like freestyling over it for a little while. But well, it didn't work. It's like I wasn't feeling it at all, and the reason is because I was recording, and so I started thinking, okay, well, no, if I was going to do that, I should do it like that. And then I wanted to stop and write things down, or not do that. But then, I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of whether you kick it in or not. You know, you have to be not feeling it. You don't have to be fully feeling it, but you have to be not feeling it. I wasn't exactly feeling it tonight, but I closed my eyes and it sort of kicked in. Closing my eyes is a good way to remove FE from the equation and sort of let me just be, let me do the shit without worrying about the externalities. But you know, it's like I find certain things kind of disappointing. Like Just a Day, that song has about 110 views and 19 thumbs up, and then that was like in its first, I don't know, 24 hours or whatever. And since then, it's got like no more views and no more or anything. So I find that a frustrating reality about my songs. It doesn't seem to matter how much positive regard I get from them. They act more like shorts than videos. They don't seem to have any legs to them. You know, they don't get any views after Mia. That pink-haired chicken, Lazy Town, huh? What are you talking about? Are you talking about, what's her name? I forget. It doesn't matter. Like, occupying a lot of headspace of somebody else is not you know, that just shocks me right out of my sentence, Alien 60. I would never have expected anybody to to highlight that particular one. Because I like it, but I see it as, in general, I tend to see things that aren't full songwriting compositions as me being indulgent in stuff that's like smelling my own farts a little bit, you know. But thank you for your kind words. I appreciate it, and it's it's reassuring that to note that I'm probably over damning myself a lot of times. I have, unlike, I don't have a lot of confidence in general about my music. I mean, the thing is, it's an NI thing, right? I can't win any argument to say my music is correct, although I might believe some of my songs are more correct than others, so to speak, on an NI level. I find it very difficult for me to tell how my own stuff stands up against other stuff in the world that I like. That it's hard for me to extract my particularism. I have to listen to something a lot of times, you know. Why are you holding people to high standards, Jack? Just stop holding people to high standards. Karma's pimp. I expected better from you. It is not holding yourself to a very high standard. That's just, you're just playing arm-foldy Armerston. The arm-folding king of fold-armedness and harumpery. Cool. Thanks, Alien 60. I appreciate that. You know, I find it really interesting. The reason music is so captivating to me in general is because it seems forever just out of reach. Like, one of these days I'm going to get it and it's all going to come together and it's going to pop like, you know, like songs that I hear sometimes when I go like, oh my god, what is that? I love this thing. What is that? I want to make something like that, you know. I want to make something that takes the world on fire. But the thing is, the world's changed so much that even stuff that I respect a great deal and like a lot doesn't necessarily catch the world on fire. And I'm not arty in my tastes, really. So I'm looking for something that is a pop hit. No, he stopped possessing me. We managed to get him out of me. I've gotten rid of all of the Damon. There might be a little residual Damon left in my poop because some Damon gets digested or gets processed, but it's not digestible, so it turns into poop. Remember though, poop is just food that gets stuck in the body. We've done some German prayer. Das bin krank. Das ist verboten. Ja. Ja. Let's go down to Oktoberfest and go to Das Wiener Schnitzel. So that we can order das verboten food. Demon, unfortunately, you only know about demon possessions. You are not an expert on demon possessions. So, I'm sorry. You're wrong. You're wrong. This makes me vomit blood all over your face. Yeah. Stop making me vomit blood on your face. Music on pop movies. Music on pop movies. I'm more arty than music. But you know what movie I saw yesterday with Rachel was Skeleton Twins, which was not what I expected at all, but it was good. Are you a Werner Herzog fan? No, I don't know who he is. I've never heard of him before. Is he related to Whitey Herzog, the former manager of, I believe, the Chicago White Sox? You know, I went to high school with, I believe, a granddaughter of that famous UNLV coach who bit the towel for years. He was a dominant college basketball coach for about 10 years. I need to look up Herzog. You gotta remember something, James Carolus. I might like Werner Herzog. I might be impressed by him. But ultimately, I'm not really interested in people filling the same niche that I'm filling. Namely, sort of publicly pontificating about shit, right? If they're right and do a great job of it, then it's still unlikely to teach me anything, except to more likely just to make me feel kind of hatery. That's just reality. People aren't really interested in their own specialty, right? They're not interested in seeing other people doing their own specialties, because either they're going to feel critical, like they're doing it wrong, or they're going to feel hatery. Oh, he's a classic depressed German filmmaker? Oh, okay. I thought maybe he was a YouTuber. I thought he was a YouTuber, so never mind what I was just saying. Well, we're on YouTube. We must be talking about YouTubers. Okay. Oh, Demon. Look, you made Jack Torrance vomit. Okay, I'll check it out. I discovered that I do like German stuff in general. I recognized my people in that Netflix show I watched not that long ago, which was German. And I was like, it struck me when I was watching it. Oh, fuck. I'm German. Like, these are my people. It just somehow is. I can just tell. It's like everything they say in German, it almost feels like I already understand it even though I don't, right? It feels like my mouth, everything about me is naturally designed to start speaking that language. Somehow I understood the characters more deeply than I normally understand characters. It was strange. Because I've never believed in any sort of biological linkage to your origin groups being a meaningful indicator of anything. But I certainly, and I felt it. Like, huh. I guess I'm German. That's what I said to myself. I guess I'm German. At worst, I'm 15 times more German than your mom's face, which is a lot more German. Okay, so I do plan to implement my proposed continual freestyle rap about MBTI, which I'll claim as a world record. I plan to do that maybe tomorrow. Which I'll try to do like 4 hours. I mean, tomorrow I've got this lunch with my mom that I'm going to. So, whether it's actually tomorrow or not, let's see how I feel after that whole thing. But I like the idea. And I'm curious to see what happens after like a couple of hours. I've never attempted to do something like that for that long before, so. Well, we are just chilling out here tonight, relaxing like Alien 60 says. Nothing needs to stress us, right? Instead, we can just sit here and eat our bread. It's bread eating time, a staple food of most of Europe. For most of history, for most of Europe, people ate a shit ton of bread. Yeah. People ate a shit ton of bread. For many years they ate a lot of bread. They ate bread without anything between. Instead they just ate the bread. They just said, I'm gonna have a bread sandwich. It's bread between bread. It's just a bunch of bread. It's a bread sandwich. Instead of being a regular sandwich, it's a bread sandwich. It's made entirely of bread. For many years, that was the kind of sandwich people put into their head because that's a staple bread that they had, a staple grain. So what I meant to say, but my brain didn't come up with the word in time. And so instead I came a different rhyme. And now here we are, coming back around to explain about bread. Everybody loves bread. Okay, so we're gonna have, this is just relaxing time, ready? I'm gonna take a deep breath. We're gonna do relax rap, okay? Relaxing rap. If you love relaxing, you're gonna love this upcoming relaxation rap. I'm just thinking I wanted to start over this beat before I do relaxation rap. Here we go. What we're going to do today is reach enlightenment the rapping way. We're going to take a deep breath, blow it out. Take a deep breath. Blow it out. Now, if you want to be like me and enlightened, well, you gotta enjoy this spirituality cocoon that you gotta make a chrysalis, see? Wrap it up with your pea and some leaves. Make it around you and hang from the ceiling until you're spiritually greening. And then you'll come out all preening and spiritually wise and gleaming with enlightenment like the eyes of the glorious Lord, shining with shine lights from a sword of the fiery sword of Michael, coming from your eyes like a a sickle to cut down the wheat, except the wheat are the sinful feet of those less enlightened than you, because now you know what to do. You know how to meditate true and become enlightened. Oh yeah. You gotta breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Just like that, repeat after me, except instead of saying words, do the thing I say. See, just breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, breathe in. Breathe in, now breathe out. Now breathe out, breathe out, breathe out, breathe in and breathe out. If you did all of that without any problems and you didn't shout, hey, I can't breathe out, I gotta breathe in again before I out again, well, then you did it wrong, my friend, and you won't begin again until you reach enlightenment. Then maybe you can do it right then. But until enlightened, you won't when you try to breathe out and 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 out. Eventually you'll say, I need to breathe in now. And when you breathe in and 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 in again, well, then you'll be filled with air, and your lungs won't fit anymore in there. Then you're gonna have to breathe out. If either of these phenomena occurs to thee, then thou hast a problem. See that you're not enlightened like me. Otherwise, you wouldn't have lungs so encumbered by freedom limiting principles such as capacity and also a lack of capacity. Either one. In fact, being enlightenment, son, frees you from all pulmonary and cardiovascular concerns entirely. Now, yeah, that's right. Because, see, once you're enlightened, you don't have to breathe. You don't have to breathe. You don't have to breathe. Once you're enlightened, you don't have to breathe. You can be like me. Okay? So, hey, meditation class isn't over yet. Where are you guys going? You're supposed to be sitting in the full lotus position right now. Alright, let's take it from the top. We're going to do all the steps you need to get to enlightenment, okay? First of all, breathe. Then, step one, put your leg on top of your other leg like it was a pretzel. Then put your other leg on top of that other leg like it too was a pretzel. Now your legs are all tangled up and you're all squirmy because you feel so like, ow, that hurts. But you gotta sit like that now for an hour straight without moving. Great. Okay, now that you're sitting on your mat, you got your legs all tangled up like that. You're staring at a blank spot on the wall, listening to yourself breathe and all. You got your hands held out in front of you as though you were holding a cup of stew like this. Ooh, 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 ooh. That's where the enlightenment juice will drip down from the ceiling of heaven into your hand, make a puddle therein, and you can drink it down and be enlightened like me, cause it is enlightenment juice, you see. Okay, now you're sitting there still, you're breathing, you're listening, you got your hands, well, like I said, you got your legs twisted up like a pretzel, and now you're wondering, what next, man? What do I do to achieve the winning canvas fam? That thing that you hand out at the end and say, you're the most enlightened one. You win. Well, here's what you gotta do. Here's what you gotta do. Listen to the sound of one hand clapping, not two. If you just listen to one hand clapping, you'll be in combo to enlightenment's hand. Time, if you wait a little longer. Fine, but listen to the sound of one hand clapping soon. Then you too can advance to level 2. After you've listened to the sound of one hand clapping, now it's time to do some rapping. Zen rap, everybody Zen rap. Sit still, don't think anything. Just sit there, don't think. Yes, breathe, but don't think. Just sit, don't move. Yes, breathe, but don't think. Just look at that spot on the wall you've been looking at for a long time now. Y'all better get used to looking at it some more, because just sit and think There, isn't that better? Now you're just sitting there thinking about nothing. Oh, you thought about your sweater. That's the fuck up. You're not gonna get enlightened that way. You gotta think about nothing. Zero things, not one thing. Not think about zero things, but actually think about zero things. Well, how could I actually think about zero things without thinking about how I got to think about zero things? It doesn't make any sense. I'll remember that I got to not think about things. How can I recall that I'm not thinking about things? After all, if you want me to not think about anything when I'm sitting here not singing a singing thing, then what would I have to think in my head? Would I just be dead? Why not just be dead? I wouldn't think at all anything in my head if I was dead. Do you want me to be dead? Is that why I'm sitting here instead of going outside or flapping or playing or laughing or playing frisbee with a B and a P and this crap that I stepped in? But gee, it's better than just sitting here and staring and breathing and looking at the same wall. I mean, what's the point of it, y'all? I don't know. I'm not sure. All I know is that these words in my inside my head mean I'm bad. It's called monkey mind, and it's sad. It prevents me from being detached, or I'm too attached, or not enough attached, or I'm not sure what's up with all that, but I know that it's bad. You stop having a monkey mind, always thinking about this and that and thine. Think instead about nothing. What? About nothing. How can I think about nothing? If it's the object of a preposition, about, surely I must be thinking about it, and it must be something. After all, it's got to be a noun to be the object of a preposition. You make me frown when you tell me to think about nothing, but not actually think about nothing, but rather don't think about anything, which is not the same as think about nothing. I can't not think about anything. At least I have to think about not thinking about anything. Otherwise, I wouldn't recall I had to think about not thinking about anything, and that wouldn't work at all. And so I sing and rap again to tell y'all that your Zen sitting Buddhism thing isn't working for me, man. It's because I got a lot of words in my head then. I'm never going to be able to sit still for this long. How am I ever going to reach enlightenment like this? Plus, it's boring. The problem with the Buddha is his shit's boring. The problem with the Buddha is his shit's boring. Yeah, that's right. Oh, no, the Buddha invited me to his party tomorrow night. I don't want to go because you know so much about what I know as well. So you know that the Buddha is boring. Everybody knows the Buddha is boring. His parties are boring. They're not even stories. You just sit there and stare at the wall and you wait for the little sandwiches to be served with the cucumbers and the 2 little pieces of bread. Because the Buddha is boring. Nobody likes to go to his parties because the Buddha is boring. He makes you just sit there and feel retarded. He's boring. Yeah, the Buddha is boring. Alright, let's pit my religion against yours. In my religion, doing stuff's okay. In your religion, you should sit all day. Which one of us is cool and which is gay? Which one of us gets shit done, which is lazy? You're the lazy one, not me, you're crazy. Don't just sit there all day looking at the wall and feeling all smug and all and try not to think about anything. I mean, what a silly notion. What would you do then? What do you do with your time all day if you're not thinking all kinds of crazy shit? I don't know. You must be wasting your time sitting and staring at a cup of nothing and asking yourself, am I enlightened yet, brother? Well, no, you're not, and you never will be. If you think you are, then you're not, you see. And if you think you aren't, then you're still not. So you won't be enlightened no matter what, Joe. You can take the promise of some kind of special status and shove it up your butt. Because you seem to have forgotten what the central message of the story is, my friend, that the Buddha is boring. Yes, the Buddha is boring. He knows how to bore me. The Buddha is boring. Sit under a tree all morning? No, Guantanamo. Guatano, or whatever your name is, Siddhartha, why don't you suck on my Pidartha? After all, Buddha, you're boring. Nobody likes your finger sandwiches. After all, the Buddha, you're boring. Nobody wants to go to your party. After all, the Buddha, you're boring. You're not rapping because you're quiet. Because you're not thinking, you're sitting silent. But I'm rapping, having a good time, so why not? Why could that not be better? It is better. It's better than you and your sweater. It's better than you, your sweater, and Heather. It's better than you, your sweater, Heather, and a letter. It's better than all of those things. It's better than all of those things combined. It's better than all of those things combined, plus something else with a great big shine. Better than everything. It's better than good, better than great, better than the best, better than fine, better than wonderful, better than mine. It's better than fantastic and better than phenomenal. It's better than an elastic thermometer. And an elastic thermometer is pretty great. It is better than an elastic thermometer. It's true. That's the part you forgot, is that it's better than an elastic thermometer. I don't blame you for being skeptical because you hadn't heard that part yet about the elastic thermometer. Who could blame you for being skeptical? My name is Luca. I live on the second floor. I live upstairs from you. Rock and roll music. I'm gonna play a very hard rock and roll song. I'm tired of doing this, tired of being me, but I want to do this more than any alternative. See, so what am I doing? And why am I doing it? I don't know any more than you, and I'm stewing in it. Stop being a poop face, is what I tell myself. Stop being a poop face. Stop being a poop face, is what I tell myself. Stop being a poop face, and yet I don't. Why do I insist on constantly being a poop face? Why? I want to know. Why do I insistently be a poop face? I don't want to be a poop face, and yet I always am. When did I become a poop face, and what can I do about it? Can I stop being a poop face? I'd like to stop being a poop face, but I seem to always be a poop face. What's up with that? I wake up in the morning and I look in the mirror. What do I see instead of a face? I see a poop. A big poop. A great big poop where my face should be. Oops. Looks like somebody pooped on my face again. When? Perhaps when I was sleeping in bed, I don't know, but I woke up this morning and there it is, so I'm a poop face. What do you know? I'm a poop face. Well, what do you know? I got poop on my face. I'm a poop face. Yeah. It's sad, but I don't know what to do about it, Tad. I'm just a poop face. I look at myself and I go, well, there's a poop face. I look at somebody else and I say, she must or he must know I'm a poop face. After all, my face is made all the poop. Their face is made of regular face stuff. That makes them not a poop face enough. But me, in contrast, well, I'm a poop face. And it gets frustrating after a while being the only poop face I ever know. The only poop face I see in the world. The only poop face out on the road. I'm a poop face and I'm all alone. Poop face. Back in first grade, they called me poop face. And they still do today because I am a poop face. My name is MC Poop Face, and I rap about having a face made of poop. My name is MC Poop Face, and nothing you can do about that dude. My name is MC Poop Face. Welcome to you, welcome to my show. You've come to watch me rap about having poop for a face, and thank you for that, because I wouldn't expect it. I didn't expect a big audience to come and see me rap about having a poop face, and yet here you are. I have a P-O-O-P face. It's a poop face. That's why you should call me P-O-O-P face. Call me Poop Face. My name is Poop Face, cause my face is made out of poop. Don't be sad for me though. I've grown a lot up since early childhood when I was bullied a lot then. And the children called me Poop Face, and I didn't want to be a poop face and said that's mean, but they said we're simply being accurate cause your face is made out of poop there, Gene. I said my name is not Gene. It's Eric. I told you that. You're mean. They said, I'm sorry, we forgot your name. We just call you Poop Face every day anyway, all the same. And I said again, but why? But why? They said, because we don't want to lie. You're a poop face. You got poop on your face. You got a face for a poop and a poop for a face, and that makes you Mr. Poop Face. I couldn't disagree with that. So eventually I succumbed to their logic. I agreed, yes, I am Poop Face. And now I live happily with that reality every day. I wake up and say, today I choose to be Poop Face whether I have the option or not. I'm going to take ownership of my poop and my face. I own it, I live it, I love it, I learn it, I live it, and I want it. Every day of my life. They call me Poop Face, cause my face is made out of poop. They call me Poop Face. What? They call me Poop Face, cause my face is made out of poop. I cannot blame them therefore, cause I am Poop Face. Yes, I am Poop Face. I hope the takeaway from that for you guys is that you are grateful that you don't have a poop face. It's not easy being Poop Face. You guys put up with a lot of grief in life when you're Poop Face. A lot of grief from a lot of mean people out there. Run up to me and say, Poop Face, Poop Face. Yeah, I am Poop Face. What of it? What, do you have some bees to sell me? I don't want to buy any of your bees. People are always running up to me and calling me Poop Face and trying to sell me bees. Like, why do you even have a bag of bees with you? And the answer, of course, is to sell them. But my question is, what made you think there's a market for bagged bees? And of course, there's never any answer to that question. That's the one they won't answer. That's what makes me think they're part of the Illuminati, probably. Okay. That's about probably coming up on enough totally pointless idiocy. So, maybe I should do us all a favor and go to bread, as they say. Maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and I won't be poop face anymore. Maybe I'll be regular face. What's better than poop face? Regular face. We have actionable intel that they are harboring fugitives. Well, I mean, if the they is articulated somewhere else so it's clear what the antecedent to the relative pronoun is, then sure. I mean, not relative pronoun, just the regular pronoun. In that case, they are harboring fugitives is basically a noun phrase working as an appositive, renaming the noun intel. That is an expletive. It doesn't play any grammatical role in the sentence. So you might have been misled into thinking that it's some kind of other clause, but no, it's a noun clause working as an appositive. It's a weird sentence, but it's correct. Thank you for asking it. I love grammar questions. Grammar was the was a part of English class, being an English teacher, that I liked. Teaching grammar is something real, you know. It's like it's a closed system. You can teach the whole thing, and well, I mean, I cover every part of speech in my book, The Orderly World of Grammar, that I wrote, which is about sentence diagramming. And sentence diagramming is why I understand grammar so well. I didn't learn grammar until after college, when I started working for Mr. Samuelson, who taught grammar, and I learned grammar when I had to learn how to teach it, you know. No, they did not drain puss from your gum, Boba Fett. They drained pus from your gum, okay? You did not have puss in your gum. You wish they had to drain puss from your gum. Oh, you getting all your teeth yanked out too, Boba Fett? You and me both, buddy. A root canal. If there's one area in which I agree with the people who are SI polar. As far as teeth go, we'd all be well served if at age 20 the dentist pulled out all of our teeth and put in all implants, so we never had to worry about them again, you know, because our teeth are just not designed to last as long as we are. And unlike failing eyesight or failing hearing, which also typically correlates with old age, although the hearing thing, I think, is almost entirely dependent on how you treated your hearing over the course of your life. But the dental stuff goes along with a lot of pain and discomfort and challenges in life and stuff. Like, the only reason I haven't gotten the rest of my dentistry work done here, gotten more dentistry work done, is because in the status quo, I have just enough teeth left that it doesn't affect my ability to speak very much. It still affects it a little bit, but not that much. And I can basically, by putting the camera on this side, I don't look all weirdly toothless, so I have no particularly pressing reason to move forward with any additional dental work. But eventually I'm going to have to get an ECT right here yanked out the rest of them, and I want to get implants there. I don't want fuck this fuck this denture shit. Give me implant. I'd rather have pay for 2 implants than a whole full set of dentures. You know, because when I got the like denture thing, it's really that changes the way you talk substantially, and I don't like that. I can't handle that. I can't have something impact my ability to speak clearly. Well, what I'm saying is, the thing is, as if we stick with our biological teeth, then we have additional range of sensory information. In other words, with my natural teeth, I can feel hot and cold. I I can tell things about the thing I'm chewing with the nerves in my teeth. But when you remove your teeth and replace them with implants, you can no longer feel anything with your teeth in your mouth. But that is something I'm willing to sacrifice completely. I don't need that ability. I don't need the ability to feel things with my teeth at all. And I don't want it, in fact. It that capacity almost always manifests as pain and never as anything useful at all. That's part of your secret history, CJ. Don't worry, your secret's safe with us. We won't tell anybody that you secretly may have had a cavity on one of your baby teeth. No, they didn't put me under general. They just shot me full of local, and when I had the bulk of it done, I personally administered to myself a Klonopin before I went down there. So it was a fairly peaceful process for me. And I was like, coolio. No, I know, but the thing is, you have to have teeth on both ends to bridge, Peter. And I don't have teeth on the left. This whole side of my mouth is without any teeth. From here back. So there's nothing to bridge onto on that side. I had extensive conversations with the dentist about my options. What they failed to articulate to me adequately was the way that dentures were going to be impactful of my speech. I did not know that. They didn't mention that as a possible thing. That I wasn't going to be able to speak normally. That I'd have this weird denture sounding talk where you have to avoid this little bar in your mouth. And when I tried the thing on, it was just like, I can't wear this thing. I can't wear it because I mean, maybe I could get used to it. I'm not sure, but it's like it's uncomfortable. It feels like you've got this thing in your mouth that's uncomfortable. It's not really uncomfortable per se. Like it's not like it's rubbing against you or anything. It's just it just doesn't feel like natural at all when you're talking. I do have a bridge already on the top over here. So it's 1 in the morning already, huh? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Um, in other words, it's basically you get you get pole implants, and then the and you bridge between the implants. That's a possibility, but yeah, that's a good idea, Peter Natucci. They did go over that with me as well. It's possible, but deprogram your teeth from relying on toothpaste. Oh, I deprogrammed mine a long time ago from that. I do when I brush my teeth. I do use. I don't have any insurance. Um, when I do brush my teeth, I use toothpaste, but I'm an infrequent toothbrusher. Partially why um, my teeth are all falling out. Maybe all the meth smoking didn't help either. Yeah, might have something to do with it. Okay. It's time for bread. I got that luncheon with my mom tomorrow. Feeling kind of meh. And it's not like I'm a fan of feeling meh per se. What was I watching earlier? It was kind of interesting. Oh yeah, that strangest objects thing. They apparently figured out what that. You may have heard of it before. It's relatively famous if you're into like unexplained weirdnesses or whatever. There are these Roman decadahedrons that they found, archaeologists have found, that have different sized holes in each of the sides. They're 12-sided things. They're like this big or whatever, and it's got holes in each side. Each of the size holes is different. Um, well, it turns out, at least, there's no way to really prove this, but I believe this to be the case. Dodecahedrons, is that how you say it? Did I say it wrong? Anyway, uh, they use it for distance measurements. So it's like, let's say you have somebody hold up something large in the distance, and when you have this dodecahedron thing, whatever it is, and because the circles are two different sizes, when you move it away from you a certain distance, they line up so they're the same size, right? They look like they're the same size. And then you can mark the spot in the circle where something appears in the distance, and like so let's say you get a T, and you get to exactly where the tips of the T hit the size of the circle from your viewpoint, and because the size of circles are different, it compels you to hold a certain distance from your eye, and it allowed them to very precisely mark distance markers on roads and stuff. So that's what it was used for. Isn't that interesting? I floss a fair amount because I got those flossy things right there. I do. I floss more than once a day, but I don't brush my teeth very often. Ancient giant D&D dice. Yeah, they were surveying devices basically, distance measuring devices. And I found it interesting that it's like they didn't know what they were. They had a lot of proposed explanations for them, and it was a mystery. And then somebody proposed that explanation, and it tests out, like, in other words, they tried it out, and it does in fact work for that purpose if you're going to use it for that purpose in the way indicated. But it there are also other explanations that make sense too. But for me, given the totality of the explanation's points, it's absolutely the case that that's what it's used for. The reason it has the different size holes, the fact that you can turn it easily to switch to different distances, and the fact that if you actually take it out and try it, it works like that. And that they would need something like that because they were building roads and shit. That they were mostly found, in fact, they're exclusively found in the northern parts of the Roman Empire and not south of a certain spot, suggests that they were used at a certain point in road construction when the roads had been built beyond Rome's a certain distance, and they were introduced then and hadn't been used on roads prior to that, and that would probably explain why they're, so when you put all the pieces together, it's like definitely the case that that's what they were for. But in actuality, we have no way of substantiating that except for our intuition until and unless we read some account by somebody of the time that describes somebody using it for that purpose. We have no way to verify that's what it's for, and yet the totality of the intuitive cues would suggest it's definitely that, which makes it an interesting situation, right? It's a nice example of when a single explanation NI hits as absolutely correct, Okay. I love _ at the dentist. The only word that goes there is nothing. Okay? I love nothing at the dentist. That's the only thing that goes between I love and at the dentist. There is no creator. Boba Fett, do you think this live stream is making itself, motherfucker? I'm the creator. I'm making it right now. You're contributing a little bit with your chat, okay? You're partially the creator too, but just a little bit. It's mostly all me, okay? Remember, it's all about me. Important lessons. There's a lesson you should take away from this live stream tonight. You should remember next time you start thinking, gosh, I have this problem. Say, hold on a second, self. It's all about Eric. And then that'll help prioritize you. Eric, Adderall is for horses, I'm telling you. Boy, your sentence needs a couple of commas, mister. Why are you trying to steal my Adderall and give it to horses? Why do they deserve it more than me? Is it because they are more equine? Boba Fett. Hey. believe in crystal light, at least. He just want me to stab him stream. I want to know why horses get my Adderall. What did they do to deserve it? Is it because they carry you around on their back? That is more useful than what I do, probably. I've never carried anyone around on my back. The creator is talking to me? Oh, Eric the creator. I'm also known as Poop Face. Yeah. Please call me by my proper name, Poop Face. I've decided to abandon these aliases of mine and go by the name God gave me. Poop Face. It's actually 2 words, you guys. It's actually 2 words. My first name's Poop, my last name's Face. Yeah, I'm not so much the decider. I am he who creates everything that's worth paying attention to is according to him. In other words, hey, I'm busy doing stuff. You should be looking at me. That's what I'm saying, okay? Oh, really? They're giving horses speed? They're giving horses Audi? How much Adderall does a horse have to take for it to have the same impact as Adderall on a human? I have to give it a lot more Audi, I guess. I took like 3 of them. Alien 60, I didn't think you were trying to be mean. I thought you were reminding me that I'm Poop Face. Which is helpful. It was very helpful at that moment because I was trying to deal with something that needed me to be named Poop Face. You took Adderall and ended up in some alternate dimension? What alternate dimension was that? It was a universe in which there was only one dimension, and it was breadth. I could only be broad. And that's it. I mean, I don't necessarily know it's awful. Maybe the horses like it. I like it. I mean, Adderall is quite strong. Yeah, that's why I've been thwacked out for the last few days, you know? And it makes me, like, sometimes get lost in, like, 6 hours of working on some nonsense and doesn't turn into anything. Sometimes that happens, you know? It's just whatever. But you do get kind of used to it over time. Like, I don't get as thwacky as hardcore as I used to, but I also don't take as much, so. Clint. Clint's a good name. Have I slept on stream before? Yeah, sure. I'm sure I have fallen asleep on stream before. Usually, I remember one time falling asleep while talking, and then sort of waking up, realizing I was saying nonsense, and then going, oh, I guess I fell asleep there for a second. But it's like I was still talking. I can talk even while sleeping, apparently. They're tricky for sure. No, they are tricky. It's that's so not true. That's such bullshit. What Peter Dintici says is completely bullshit. Adderall does not have an opposite effect upon people wired with ADHD, in contrast to somebody who isn't. Not true. Speed has the same effect on everybody, basically. There's one element to that that's kind of true, which is for people with ADHD, a lot of times when you first go on cycle, so to speak, it makes you sleepy. And that may be because it's starting to kick in and you can really rest. Your brain's chilled out. But I mean, it is true that not everybody handles speed as well. So, and what I mean by that is people get thwacked out on doing different kinds of shit, right? Like, what are you tweaking out on is the real question. I mean, the thing is, Eric is the ADHD expert on YouTube because he's correct in saying so-called ADHD, to the extent it links to anything real at all, it links to simply being an action type. Primarily, the T's, I think, are most likely to get diagnosed as such, namely ESTPs and ENTPs. It's not an actual thing, except to the extent that you're talking about people who have retardation level attention disorders, which there are such people, but it's usually an ancillary thing of some other cause. But ADHD is no more real than autism spectrum. They're both completely bullshit. It's just frame projection of some individuals onto other individuals, and needs to be understood as such. That doesn't mean that such people won't function better in the world in some way if they're given speed, but that's probably true of everybody. So don't believe a word any doctor or anybody says about ADHD. Listen to Eric. He knows what's correct about it. Are Infjs organized? No. Why would you think they're always organized? What? I mean, they don't have a reputation, do they, for being organized? No, it's bullshit because it's called a disorder when it's actually a configural distinction. Okay? So to call a specific way of a specific attentional configuration a disorder is to pathologize a normal expression of human being. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying, Peter Dintici? I'm not saying that you can't point to something in the brain that links to a diagnosis of ADHD. I'm saying what you're calling a problem, that's a feature, not a bug, right? No, there's no neurological causes for it. It's like the notion of an executive function disorder. It is true for most of these things that there are extreme severe instances of them that qualify as legitimate problems or something similar. Like, there are people with genuine executive function disorders, right? But to say that anything's a disorder if it causes disorder in your life, well then I have Peter Dintici disorder. Because Peter Dintici comes around and causes disorder in my life. Does that mean that you're a pathology that I'm suffering from? No, it doesn't, Peter Dentici. No, it doesn't. In this case, you are a pathology I'm suffering from, but it doesn't mean that necessarily. If you want, you know what they say, Peter Dentici? Oh, for fuck's sake, that's ridiculous. That's the stupidest bullshit I've ever heard. It's the stupidest bullshit I've ever heard. Do not believe a word Peter Dentici says. He's completely full of shit. No, because I don't come around to you to spit in your pie. Whereas you come around to me to spit in my pie. That's the difference, Mr. Pathology. That's nice, Boba Fett. You hear that? Boba Fett decided to backtrack from his ruthless antagonism. Isn't that nice? There's no semantics here at all. No semantics at all. This is a matter of whether or not ADHD is a phenomenon that's something that psychology treats as a pathology, or whether it's not. My point is, they do treat it as such, but it's not. About ADHD? Fuck no. I mean, I already know too much about it to be interested in indulging in Peter Dentici's nonsense, because I don't doubt that you can gather together a bunch of people who display your textbook symptoms, quote unquote, of ADHD, and find brain similarities between them. That would be the case just as much if it were caused, as I say, if it were in fact just a configural distinction rather than something wrong with you. I mean, the thing is, ADHD is a phenomenon of frame projection and fucked up reality. There's no such thing as this kid's not paying enough attention if you're not locking them in a room and forcing them to operate under some random adult's frame of reference and accept that random adult's projection of their frame's superiority onto this, intellectually unprepared child, right? So when you have that scenario, you create things like, Johnny doesn't fit well with our youth prison camp. There's not something wrong with our youth prison camp. There's something wrong with Johnny, right? That's the principle there, right? It's like, if my kid runs around so much, the problem isn't that I'm not affording this child sufficient room to play and grow as a child. The problem is my child wants to run around too much. No, it's fucking backwards. Peter Dentici and I don't really disagree here, actually. But I just don't like to empower the wrongnesses of the world. And the wrongnesses of the world are led by those who would argue that we can better defend the case that there's something wrong with people who have ADHD. When in reality, they don't have something, they are action types. Okay, so then at that point you're saying, no, it's not, we really should call it an executive function disorder. That the problem is there's no decision making about how the attention is going to be applied. It's just seems to be at its own mercy, right? Well, that's true. That's why it's maximally so in ESTPs and ENTPs, is because of the lack of FI, right? So if you don't know very clearly what you want to do, then in instances where you aren't being compelled to do things, this or that thing, by various outside forces, then you're not going to have much clarity about what exactly. I mean, the thing is, it's possible to want to not know where you're going when you start, right? To want to wander around intellectually or whatever else. So the implication there that it's necessarily better to know where you're going attentionally before you get started and to follow through on that is itself another frame bias projection. Yeah, it's a motivational problem is the best way to accurately describe it. Or you might say a dopamine management issue. Doing drugs in general is either a dopamine or a serotonin management issue. Because the world doesn't allow everybody to attain legitimacy, to meet sort of Maslow's hierarchy of needs while also just being themselves. It requires everybody to adjust to the world to some extent. And again, a frame projection bias, right? So there's this presumption in all of these kind of stats that Peter Dentici is citing here that there's a single mean and average individual from which other individuals deviate. But that's fundamentally a flawed paradigm. In fact, there are 16 sets of individuals, and you can only meaningfully talk about deviation from a norm within those sets. And if you try to talk about it without acknowledging the primacy of those sets, you will end up pathologizing each of those sets in some ways or another, because each of those sets will simply project its own frame bias onto all the other sets. And if they're not operating with knowledge of the fact that they're in those 16 sets, but instead think they're talking about a single large set, each of them is seeing the fundamental differentiation of configuration between individuals in different sets as a problem in keeping with their own frame bias. So I would say, like, Peter Dentici has frame lock disorder. He's unable to see how the larger frame is determinant on an issue like this, and therefore there's something wrong with him. Except that would just be projecting my frame bias onto you, right? Same thing with that shit there. Same fucking thing. It's just projecting a frame bias. Emotional development, say emotional regulation of a 14-year-old. So what precisely is emotional regulation? And so do I have the emotional regulation of an average 14-year-old? Or at 21? Or did I have the emotional regulation of myself at 14 when I was 21? So if I had grown a lot emotionally in terms of my regulation from 14 to 21, say the same amount as somebody else, then is the problem really a lack of emotional regulation, but rather isn't it simply a prioritization of something else? When you're dealing with things that need to be prioritized at the expense of other things, then the prioritization comes with the expense. The expense is not a problem. It's not a pathology. It's not something wrong with you. It's a necessary reality that comes along with being something. A typical 14-year-old doesn't exist. There are 16 groups of typical. That's the problem here, Peter. That's the problem. So you gather together all the 14-year-old ENFPs, all the 14-year-old ENTPs. You can meaningfully compare within those groups. So in other words, you might say this person has poor emotional regulation compared to other ENTPs of his same age. If you're not doing that, then you're guilty of the thing I just said, and you fail to understand about how it's necessary to start at the right level of frame, or else you will necessarily not only be wrong, but perpetrate a general shittiness of thinking throughout the world. I have the emotional regulation to shove my foot up your ass. Inhibiting my emotions is not my strategy of dealing with my emotions. So it shouldn't be considered a standard I'm failing to meet. It should be considered the alternative I'm not attending via, right? Here's the thing Peter didn't teach you. Ultimately, we never know anything empirically, okay? Empirics may strengthen our justifications for some claims. But if you think empirics allow you to know, then you're suffering from frame lock. Empirics don't allow one to know, okay? Empirics are something someone uses to justify a conclusion. Now, the thing is, what you're doing there is saying, why should I listen to you when you're not presenting empirics? But what I'm telling you is, empirics are a way to justify a conclusion. The question you need to be asking is your conclusion, Eric, have you justified your conclusion well? And the thing is, I've provided you a lot of very good justifications for my conclusion over multiple occasions. So at this point, if you were going to be still questioning whether I'm correct here, then you'd have prepared, for sure, in your head at least, the answers to my existing justifications that currently are determinant on the issue. In other words, in the absence of contradictory explanations and stuff, we ought prefer the case I've already well established. And you're asking me to establish more case for you, but you've not done your job with the case I've established. If you're unsatisfied with the existing case, then you need to point out where it's flawed, not simply demand it produce ever more substantiation. So, because that would simply not be trying to find the truth, but just trying to make it difficult to attain a truth that's satisfactorily substantial. Listen to everything I say. I mean, the thing is, what are we arguing about here, about ADHD? I'm pointing out that the people who get diagnosed with ADHD are at a very high rate of correlation with ESTPs, ENTPs, usually those two. Okay? But, but what I'm really telling you is my explanation makes the most sense in the same way the dodecahedron explanation makes the most sense. So, you have lots of reasons, good reasons, to treat this issue like the dodecahedron issue. And it's a very similar one. In other words, at the moment anyway, we don't have empirics to determine that, yes, that's the right explanation for what the dodecahedron was for. That it was for surveying and distance marking. But when you look at the totality of the cases, it becomes absolutely convincing, and you say that's definitely got to be the answer. Then, yeah, we don't have a contemporaneous account from the time that substantiates it. And yet, though we make that disclaimer, I, for one, am absolutely convinced because I'm able to, willing to, and successfully do assess the actualities of the case and acknowledge when the NI totality of it is convincing. So I've successfully done that, right? I'm saying to you, you're not successfully doing that with my explanations. And I'm not going to spend more time trying to add on to an explanation that should already have long since convinced you. Even though it's not going to meet full TI scrutiny. Or from your perspective, I guess, TE scrutiny, you know. I could have those empirics. I could by establishing a database out of all the typing sessions and stuff and meowing and whatever and compiling a bunch of data, so I could produce TE that would be convincing. The thing is, I would have to be testing specifically with populations of people who have been diagnosed with ADHD. I don't affirm at all the capacity of the doctors who diagnose people to even get them right in terms of, like, if they were to get it right, they'd diagnose every ESTP and every ENTP with ADHD, because the thing they're looking for is basically that. So, but they don't. Yeah, so it's like, I have zero faith at all in the people diagnosing it, in the mechanisms of the actuality of the medical profession engaging with ADHD. I think it's all fucking horrible, because the reality is they're pathologizing a personality type. So, and I guess in that regard, I find it offensive, and so I tend to take that approach in arguing about it. They are pathologizing a personality type, or more than one personality type. Well, but see, this is the problem, Peter Dintigi. If someone else were to ask you about this, and all you could say to them is to trust, is that I told you to trust my word. I didn't tell you that. I said, I've made shit tons of arguments about this. Have you been paying attention? If not, then go back and repay attention to it. You want me to rebuild the case in front of you right now? It's and the thing is, I did a lot of case building even before you asked that question about empirics. So no, I don't have empirics to back up the fact that what people are calling ADHD is actually one of a few personality types and an attentional matter thing, an attentional matter configuration thing. Because first of all, it would be difficult to design a test that would actually establish the claim I'm making with empirics, right? Like, I'm saying that it's a feature of personality and that it's not a pathology. So how exactly do I prove that, since your definition of pathology anyway is anything that creates disorder in your life? In other words, I guess if an individual self-identifies as having a problem that needs medication, then there must be something wrong with them, because if there's not, we can't justify giving them medication. I mean, that's fucking back-asswards TE thinking, you know? Well, my point, though, Peter, is yes, people perform better on measurable metrics when on speed. But that doesn't mean that it's a thing that benefits. Remember, I'm a human being who's an NEDOM, therefore has ADHD, and I benefit from speed in some ways. And in some ways, it hurts me. So, but in terms of things you can measure, I will score better on those measurables on speed than not on speed. But so would you. No, you can't have TI and TE polar at the same time. Now, it may be true that people who aren't action types, NE-DOMs, SE-DOMs, find they don't have a beneficial relationship with speed long term over time. Well, look, what Winston's mom says there, ADHD brains have a low level of a neurotransmitter called blah, blah. Let's say there was a blood test and you got your scores back on that thing, right? And you got that blood test done, and it shows, yep, your levels of this transmitter are below MIA, so that means you should be prescribed speed. Well, fine then. Fine. But that's not how ADHD is diagnosed at all, right? ADHD is diagnosed as basically how much difficulty does life give you? You know? It's like if you won't sit still and do your shit and do boring work, then okay, fine. But and then there's something wrong with you and you get to have speed. But there's nothing wrong with you if you won't sit still and do boring work. There's something wrong with sitting still and doing boring work. Right? Seems to me. I think school was boring. Really boring, you know? I didn't enjoy it. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with me. It probably means school was really boring. Me too. Isn't everybody these days? Lots of people are diagnosed with that. You have no qualms. You better get some qualms, motherfucker. You better get some qualms. One thing I can't stand about this Peter Dentici guy. He's always losing his qualms. I diagnose you with boring, Mr. Psychiatrist. There's no difference between the two, really. It's just people use the words interchangeably. Well, yeah, I'm saying that it's like getting diagnosed with it, it's not a real thing. Like, you know, when you have this sort of cluster of symptoms, and if you sort of hit enough on enough of them, then the doctor arbitrarily decides you have it. That's not a way to diagnose something. You know, it's just it's it's spitting reason in the face. You know, I don't like it. Like, don't diagnose things like that. Decreased ALF? Oh no. Not decreased things in those places. I guess there's something wrong with me after all. I mean, it's like, maybe I don't want a diagnosis. Maybe I don't want to have something wrong with me. What about that? Don't I have any say in that matter? I don't want to have something wrong with me. Because it has the word disorder in it. Because that's how it's dealt with, you know? It's like, that's the thing. It's like, you want to talk about it within the existing paradigm, even though I don't like the existing paradigm. So it's like, the only thing I want to talk about is how we need to change the existing paradigm. Well, what does it really mean to say that I have something wrong with me? It means those fuckers have convinced the world that erickiness is a disorder. That's what it means. I don't like the idea that some idiot out there who's way dumber than me says that erickiness is a disorder, even though I can't be ericky without sacrificing something, right? In other words, the reason we're here having this conversation and I'm not an idiot is because I'm ericky, right? I'm very ericky. But if I didn't have ADHD, I wouldn't be ericky, right? So, in other words, to focus on it as a deficit in brain architecture in certain areas is definitely to pathologize it and tell me there's something wrong with me. And it's convincing. It's like, well, I mean, fuck, if those parts of my brain are less developed than other people, I guess they are, or whatever. But, you know, that could be just the physical incarnation of the thing I'm talking about as well. Either way, I don't want there to be something wrong with me. And the main reason is because fuck those people. I'm smarter than they are. Why is there something wrong with me? Something wrong with them. Fuck them. You know? That's just how I roll through life. It's like, I'm being super ericky. I get that. But that's not actually the problem. You guys, rest of the world, spent decades trying to convince me that was the problem. Was that I was too ericky. My whole second marriage, my wife spent the entire 14 years we were together trying to convince me that the problem was I was too ericky. Kimberly, the entire time we spent together, trying to convince me the problem was Eric is too ericky. First wife, same thing. My whole life, you know, you're just too arrogant. Well, what does that mean? Well, it turned out I am too arrogant, but instead of wagging their finger at me for my failure to be less arrogant, they should gratifyingly shake my hand for my willingness to bestow my glorious arrogantness upon them, despite their pearl receiving sow ears, you know. And then I realized, oh, it's true eventually, what I just said. First I just said it because fuck off, but then eventually I realized it's true. If it's a real threat to your health, like how? Like, oh no, I'm so deficient in attention that my organs are failing. Okay, well, I just don't like being told that being arrogant is a disease of some sort, okay? That's just it. This is FI. You run afoul of Eric's FI. I don't like it. The environment is the threat. You mean like bears and stuff? Okay, I agree. Bears are a threat. Very large eagles are a threat to small children. Well, James Careless, maybe if you spent less of your time telling me how to be successful, you'd be more successful. Thought about that? You mean like mountain lions then? Talking mountain lions, Alien 60? Polar bears? Or you talking about wolverines? Those fuckers, wolverines, yeah. If you see a wolverine in your trash, don't try to go shoo them away. They'll tear your arm off. Well, yeah, sure it is. I mean, you know, I don't view myself as. I'm much more often like. I'm much more likely in general to critique myself than I am to play the iconoclastic rebel in reality. Around here, I'm voicing the voice of the iconoclastic parts of me, but you know, when I walk away from an exchange or something, I sometimes, you know, not so much anymore, but like there's a deep and unchangeable lack of faith in myself. Like maybe it's an FI polar thing, I'm not sure, but you know, I can go from big dick energy, yeah, fuck yeah, to humbled and crushed in a minute, you know. So it's I don't have any any real understanding of myself having a value, except so far as I am externalizing, or in the sense of attending to my animal self. Like, I understand that I matter when it comes to eating and stuff like that. I can't really explain all this stuff, Boba Fett. It doesn't really explain very well. It's like on some level, there's a sense that if everybody were to reveal tomorrow that, you know what, we spent a little bit more time thinking about it and we kind of all realize that we hate you, I would just be like, well, it's kind of bound to happen. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like, it's difficult when you're constitutionally, ontologically configured to be insufferable, right? Is and slow to pick up on that reality, and slow to recognize the significance of it to you, that you figure out some way to engage with people besides just trying to entertain or impress them, you know? When I was younger, I used to have, I used to not like going to bed, getting into bed, and okay, now playtime's over and you're here by yourself, and you're just gonna have to be here by yourself now. And it always felt like somehow everybody else, when they went to bed, they went home to a warm family and home. But when I went to bed, it was just me, and it was all cold and lonely. And I didn't have that same kind of metaphorical family of the self that other people did. But I don't feel like that. I haven't felt like that in a while now. But I mean, the way I am, the way I live, and everything, I have to go through life knowing that, you know, a lot of people are gonna not like me or actively dislike me, and or that that I'm gonna fail because I'm too arrogant, you know. It's just a metaphor, Peter didn't teach you. That I'm saying that's how I felt when I got into bed. Like, okay, I felt like during the day I'm kind of like a kid playing out in the street with his friends. but then during the night, when it's time to go to bed, this is as an adult, okay, but I'm just using a metaphor here. But it's like, as an adult, during the day, I'm like a kid playing with his friends in the street. But when I go to bed, it's like I went home and it's an empty house and cold, and I have no parents. But normal people, when they go to bed, somehow they have parents there, and they have a family in a house. It's an analogy of sorts. Okay, it's not anything other than that. Now, as far as I seem troubled by it, I'm not troubled by it. I'm taking seriously the subject at the moment. Um, in other words, the source of this conversation was ultimately why I'm so opposed to considering ADHD a disorder. And the answer is because I don't like I don't like I don't want to be pathologized, basically. I don't want people to be able to win an argument that there's something wrong with me. Maybe, CJ. Yeah, it's a metaphor. I don't know exactly what I mean, but well, no, I'm. This is what happens when I'm trying to FI or something, or involving FI. I start to break down, like lose the ability to operate because everything slows down to fucking microscopic speed. That would not make any sense. What do you call like super slow speed? Super slow mo, I guess. You know. Typology doesn't pathologize. My arguments are relevant and are taken seriously. So I don't feel it's bad or anything. It's just a serious topic. Uh, James Careless, that's an excellent description of what happened there. James Careless says, "How can you criticize me when you haven't taken the steps to make your life better?" Classic TEFI dissembling. It's just kind of me trying to make a snappy comeback. Do I prefer shatter or butter? I mean, I'll smoke whatever, it doesn't matter. What is the thing you just wrote? I don't know what the thing you just wrote is. Right there. It's a result of accumulated experiences in life, building a narrative that is a projection of the other's experience of expectation of assuming the person to act different. It's a result of accumulated experiences comprising a narrative that is a projection? I'm not sure. Let's get rid of that part. A narrative of the other's experience of expectation. I can't understand anything. I cannot understand that crazy sentence you wrote, Peter. You have to try to write it better than that. That's a terrible, terrible, terrible sentence. No, to pathologize means to say that they have something wrong with them. So, like, when I tell you you're an ESFP, I may say ESFPs are shitty because of meow, but I'm not saying ESP is a disorder or a disease. What do you mean by project their judgments of expectations? I mean, you're just saying other people have in the past told me I'm not acting right. Right. So you're saying that I've lived a lot of experience where people tell me there's something wrong with me in one way or another. Indicate that. That's the point. That's what I'm saying. But that the thing is, generally speaking, a lot of people told me meow is wrong with me is gonna correlate more strongly with there actually being something wrong with you than it is with all those people being wrong, right? One would think, anyway. But I don't think that's the case. I think there's something wrong with people in general telling people there's something wrong with them most of the time. Occasionally, like, the thing is, if you got Down syndrome or something, there's something wrong with you. You've got Down syndrome. If you've got, you know, like spina bifida or whatever, there's something wrong with you. If you've got bipolar mania, there's something wrong with you. Now, some of those things can be treated so that now there's nothing wrong with you as long as you take these meds. Some of these things cannot be treated, like you have Down syndrome. That's just there's something that you were born with something wrong with you, you know. But ADHD, I don't want to see it as something wrong with me. I don't like that. So that's about all there is to say about it. I don't like it. How about that? I'm not I'm not sure why I don't like it. Besides what I said. I mean, that's an explanation of sorts, but why do I bother having any feeling about it at all? I don't know. It's hard to say. Who can explain that at all? Why do I have feelings about it? I mean, the thing is, I might explain why one would have feelings about it by explaining my experience like I just did. But it doesn't explain why I would have feelings about it, because I already know what my experience is and means, so there's no reason to feel anything about it. There's something wrong with identifying the problem, and is mostly an undercovered viewpoint. Well, regardless, there's no point in having feelings about it, yet obviously I do have feelings about it. And that's one of those mysteries that I can't explain. No. Cognitive dissonance occurs when you're sustaining multiple truths that are in conflict. Well, it's like this. I don't like category errors of the following sort. In education, there's special education. Special education comprises two unique communities of students: those who are retarded and those who are gifted. Now, what's the problem here with this kind of distinction being made? Retarded is an actual thing, gifted is not. Right? We might generally say, wow, that kid's going to excel at meow, but this notion that the child is gifted is insane. There's not an actual distinction to be made. You have to sort of lobby and compete. It's like anything else in school, right? But instead of competing for, like, oh, cool, I made the varsity squad, you're competing for an ontological status of gifted. But no, nobody has to compete for an ontological status of retarded because there's actually something wrong with them. There's not actually anything different about anybody who's gifted, right? I mean, the thing is, Peter, the problem is this. We can define mentally retarded with a concrete operational definition of lacking in metacognition. In other words, unable to demonstrate a capacity to think about their own thinking. That's the demarcating line between retarded and not retarded. But so it is the case that someone has an highly accentuated ability in a particular thing. Let's say they're an amazing pianist and they're a 12-year-old. Well, why are they going to school then? Why are they going to a gifted class? So they can play more piano during their youth prison camp time than they would at regular school? Why don't they just stay home and play the piano? It's not like you can be gifted at anything that school can benefit you for, right? So it's like, you can't be gifted at math. You can just be really good at math. Now, true, you might be some sort of math genius who ends up solving certain kind of equations and shit like that. But in that case, again, what are you doing in school? That's not a fast way to learn. Well, Alien 60, as I said, if it were the case that ADHD were diagnosed on those neurotransmitter levels because they get tested for it and they get a test result that says you've got low levels of this, then that would be a reasonable way to diagnose people with what you could reasonably call a disorder. But that's not the reality that we live in, is it? We live in a reality in which... How's Rachel? She was fine last I saw her. I mean, well, it's... I don't know. I don't know how she is. You know, it's like... She's feeling an increase in some of the symptoms of the neuropathy since she started retaking the Prozac. She thinks it's from the Prozac. I'm hesitant to question her NI on the matter. The doctor told us that 8 weeks is more accurate of a time frame than 3 for the complete half-life thing to pull out. And then I'll name a reasonable disorder borderline personality disorder because there's a clear linkage to a specific cause and mechanism for it, namely childhood abuse and a failure to establish the right trust baselines in developmental stage. That's a real disorder. It's a behavioral disorder. Another real disorder is like alcoholism. It's a behavioral disorder. Now, the reason those are disorders is because they represent behavior patterns that are pathologically bad. And so we can point to the like toxicities, externalized toxicities, in order to indicate, okay, that's not healthy. But it's not the same thing with ADHD. They're not externalized problems. They're problems. In other words, in BPD, you've got a situation where the symptoms are being taken out on other people, right? So that's an easy one to point out that there's something wrong going on there because there's toxicity going on there, right? It's also easy to articulate the cause of it. It's a trust issue or attachment disorder. So that's an actual disorder. But like autism spectrum disorder or whatever they call it, that's not a real thing because they're mostly just saying to people who don't have good FE, there's something wrong with you. Schizophrenia is not a disorder. Schizophrenia is a real disease, like bipolar mania. Schizophrenia is way more real in that regard than ADHD ever could be. Same with bipolar mania. Schizophrenia and bipolar mania, there is something that's wrong with you that needs to be treated with drugs. When the thing about ADHD is you don't need to be treated with drugs to be sane and have ADHD. You just need drugs to put up with the insane world if you have ADHD. That's a very different set of circumstances, you know? Like, if you got schizophrenia or the kind of bipolar mania Rachel has, if you don't take your drugs, you go crazy. There's something wrong with you. But if you do take your drugs, you're fine. So, the thing is, that's different than me. When I don't take my ADHD medication, that's called Sleepy Week. Yeah, you've been needing to clean up your mom's face for a while, CJ. You need to put some order into that. ADHD is not a distorted reality. Right. Okay, I gotta go to bed. I got shit to do in the morning. I haven't been getting enough sleep. Yeah, I don't know. Who cares? I don't care. I don't care. You know, I'm just always talking about how I think things should be framed differently. Not really, and you know, I got my erkiness going on. Why do you call it a medication when it doesn't cure you? Well, I mean, I often call it just speed. So if I need opiates, I don't think you need opiates. Unless you're, well, I mean, if you need opiates, the problem is you've suffered a traumatic injury or something. Oh, that's your disorder. You need opiates. Well, your disorder is you like opiates and don't have any, I guess. Low fat, I gotta go to bread, dog. You gotta respect the need for bread. One step from ya, and one step from ya. Step away. But don't take the third step, because that's just a sad lover's waltz. So I hope Rachel's okay. You know, I think she'll be okay. The challenge is, I think Rachel and I would both like to see her not be on the Prozac for 8 weeks or whatever, but for whatever the reason, she's I mean, there may be no linkage between the resumption of the Prozac and the increase in symptoms. I don't know, but the problem is, of course, she needs it, or else she gets super depressed and super catastrophic-y about everything. So it's going to be a challenge, but she's going to try to sort of every other day it, or every day and a half it instead of every day. The doctor doesn't think there's a linkage there, or he wasn't exactly clear. I wrote him another excellent Luminella message asking all the key questions that needed to be asked. No, I mean, I go back to normal Eric after Sleepy Week. It's just normal Eric gets restless and wants to do speed. You know? And then when it comes back around, he's like, fuck yeah, let's do it. It's just that, you know. Alright. I gotta go to bed. Good night. I love you all. Let me let you know this. I don't just love you with anything. I love you with my emotional heart, okay? And that's my most loving part. It's the best part, the juiciest part to be loved by. My emotional heart loves you. Think about that as you sleep tonight. Good night. And America and the world.